All right.
Yeah, G, cheers. Cheers, y'all.
Hi, everyone. Cheers, cheersies.
Yeah, Monty.
Oh, we got Lewis. We got Monty. That like popped up as soon as I started live. So I wonder if that
Yeah.
means like
I think he followed
they followed
before,
me before the live started, and then it lets you know in real time
which
like
is cool.
what it is. We
Yeah, that's
got
cool.
Megan Grace over here on Facebook.
Yeah, Meg, what's up, homie?
How we doing?
Evans says, hey, what's going on, Evans? Yeah, Lewis.
Hello, Lewis. Hi, everyone. We're going to take a couple minutes, guys, here to let everyone come on,
Get
join
settled.
here. For anyone who is just tuning in for the first time, I am Gina Marie Vega, new mom, influencer, entrepreneur, jack of all trades, master of some. And then we got Coach Mike over here, taker of names, kicker of butts. Okay. Don't you love that intro? So tonight, guys, we are doing something a little bit different. Okay. Mike, you want me to go into the spiel a little bit of what's going down tonight?
Let the people know. Let them know what's up. Yeah, RG, what's going on? And then, yeah, Megan, I see Megan, you cooking up some food.
Stir
Nice.
fry. What was a cook it in the stir fry? You know,
Is that a
there's a laugh.
song? I don't know that song.
There's a song, stir fry with three amigos. All right,
Sure.
whatever.
Sure.
How was the pasta? It was actually really good.
It looks so good.
It was a lot of work for very little return, in my opinion. I'd rather buy an 80-cent box of pasta. Just saying. But that's just my opinion. But guys, tonight we're doing things a little bit differently tonight. We are doing a live podcast episode. Yes, we have products down in the carousel. We included items that we're using during our podcast from my MacBook Pro. We got the camera stand, the camera, the mic in the carousel, a few other products that we just love, and a few of our Amazon favorites. But tonight's focus isn't really necessarily the products. Okay. Tonight's focus is we're doing a podcast style, our first episode of Real Family-ish. For those of you who don't know, me and Mike are cousins, born on the same day, 3 years apart. So we wanted to sit here and kind of, hi, Uncle Mark, how are you?
What's going on, Dad?
So tonight is the first ever episode of our new live podcast streaming here, and we're having you guys involved with it. Okay, so everything we talk about is open for discussion. We love to hear from you guys in the chat. We love to talk to you guys. I know there's a few other podcasts on Amazon as well, but I haven't seen any yet. So we decided to start our own about family stuff overall. Hi, Reagan, how are you?
Yeah, Ray, what's going on?
So again, guys, feel free to jump over to Amazon. We'll be talking to everyone through the chat on Amazon. And the topic for tonight, or just one of the topics, because again, we're open to discussion. Anything you guys want to talk about, we want to piggyback off you guys too. It's all about you guys. We have what was the stuff? Why did I completely lose my train of thought? The parents' behaviors and ones that you carry on to your kids. How do you break the cycle? So that is one thing we're going to bring up here. Your parents' behaviors, family behaviors, habits, hobbies, then on some, and what you carry over to your kids. How do you break this cycle? And how, I guess, it affects you, and how do you raise your kids differently or the same? Because maybe you feel there's nothing wrong. Maybe you feel there isn't anything to change. Maybe there is no cycle to break for you, which I will shake your hand and give you the biggest ups if you feel that there is nothing you have to change within your family. Tell me, like, I think 90% of people have things they want to break the cycle of.
Couldn't agree more. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a part of progression and evolution. Like, so this is my even take on, like, if we think about, like, look, since, like, even my dad's on Facebook saying, hey, in the chat, look at, like, Poppy, for example, my dad's dad, and then his dad, and then the progression of what the sacrifices they make. Like, let's paint a picture for our Poppy really quick. So Poppy and Nani, they were our grandparents. They bought a house in Brooklyn. Like, this is how many decades ago? So the pricing's obviously crazy different. But Poppy, for a year straight, he worked as a brick mason, and then after a full day of labor would come home until basically he would go to sleep and do this all over again every day for a year, build his house, and make certain sacrifices. Then affording those sacrifices passes it down to uncle, like your dad, my dad, Uncle Richie, their children, their sons, and then being able to instill certain things. There's still obviously like patterns and behaviors there. Like, like I remember stories from my dad telling me and Uncle T and whatnot of like Poppy would just have them move bricks from one part of the yard to the other instead of like going out or doing different things, like things like
You're
that.
gonna help me right now and lift these bricks because why? Because I said so.
Because I said, and then like then I think of like that was good for them, and there's certain dynamics that like it's necessary to get you to where you are, but then there's certain aspects we can evolve and grow from and change. And then, for example, who's that? Is that Ash? Oh yeah, buddy. Was that my dad built our house too? So bingo, there we go.
Hi, Ashley.
See?
One thing that you just said right there, and what we both just said, that parents, or should I say, it's not necessarily anything anyone was doing wrong. So let's make that clear. Uncle Mark, you're listening, so please do not take anything we say here offense, or any of our family is listening. But because I said so, let's take that phrase right there.
Oh yeah.
Let's take that phrase that so many parents will tell their kids, because I said so. Do you feel that is? What is your take on? Let me start with you guys. I did a lot of not when I say research. I read a few articles. I watched a few podcasts. I'm not like medically like degreed in this, but I did some self research on this. What do you feel because I said so, Michael?
Yeah, that one's I think we have to look at why is that so frustrating and infuriating, right? So you're going. So look at you see what really quick though. You see what Ash said though. So she was like,
"Are you going to build us a house?" The day I see Michael, he had a problem building the playground in the backyard. Let's see Michael do it. Hi, thank you for the follow.
We got it done. That's my homie Casey. Casey is my girl. What's up, Casey? I see you, homie. First off, Casey is a bad bleep. I'm not gonna say just because of Amazon. Amateur boxer, won a championship boxing tournament, cash money, and then now she's traveling the U.S. right now. So shout out to Casey.
Shout out,
Casey. I would say drop your stuff in the chat so people can go support you if they want to check out your art and stuff. She's got some great stuff. Anyways, that's not the point. You asked a great question, Gina. So to me,
I think so, yes. Back to that.
I think we have to look at like why is that? Because it's very frustrating. I hate that, and I think it's a missing piece, right? And hold on, let's see what. It's more important to build a house.
A home. It's more important to build a home than a house. That's Uncle Mark.
Facts. So that's what I'm building. And so I'm going to go off on a quick tangent. So Ashley, no, I'm not going to build our house, but because of the sacrifices Poppy, my dad, my mom, our family made, I'm going to make more money so that I can pay someone else to do it. And we're not only going to.
What your wife just said to read that.
You have to remember your kids are their own people. You need to, yeah, exactly. So, and here's the thing. And I think this is why it's so frustrating when you hear it's like, cause I said so, because I think there's validity in that urge, what a parent is trying to have happen. Hey, I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying to save you time. But if you don't properly explain, and depending on their age too, right? Like my 2-year-old Tessa, I can't have the same kind of conversation I would with even Lena at 3, and then let alone later in life. Let's see, what's Ashley saying right now?
We expect them to be able to handle their own emotions when most adults can't even do that, which that's exactly, I was just talking to Mike about Mr. Chaz. Ashley, I think I've sent you him a million times. He is amazing. I have his podcast here on Amazon in the carousel down below. I'll highlight it for a second. He is a kindergarten and preschool teacher, if I'm not mistaken, and he is big on understanding emotions and breaking cycles. So instead of just saying, I told you so, which again, there's certain scenarios where you need to say, like, put your foot down and set boundaries where like, hey, I'm doing this for a reason, but it's not just saying because I told you so. It's more saying, I am doing this because it's gonna benefit you and here's why. And I understand you're frustrated and I understand you're gonna hate me. And I understand telling them you need to hear them. People need to be heard. And I think, what do you say? We've built a great home. I want to build a house. I'm very handy. Ashley, no offense, Mike. I put my money behind you building the house before Mike does.
Me too.
Back a little bit to what I was saying is that it's understanding in the line of communication. You just tell a kid no, what are they going to do? They're going to do the complete opposite. And they'll probably still do the opposite and feel like they know best. But to me, I think that line of communication is so key, and respecting them as an individual, even starting at like even now with Logan, she's freaking out about the snacks. I'm very frustrated with that. My daughter wants snacks 24/7. And when she starts crying and freaking out that I don't give it to her, I said, I understand you're frustrated, but I have to tell you and set this boundary that no, you can't have this snack right now because it's not good for you. And maybe we'll have it in a little bit. Do you want to do something else? Or would you rather play this? Would you rather go play and color? But right now we can't have a snack. Like I make it so that she understands. And I'm like, and even though I know she physically can't, I said, tell me what's wrong, how you feel. Like I want her to know those words that you can talk to me about it. And I think that's really, really, really important.
Yeah, and I think to your point, G, is just providing the ability for it to feel like a conversation as opposed to a one-way street, which
Yes.
at times, obviously, our kids are still young, right? So I'm not saying we have like some expertise level knowledge.
100%.
We haven't seen like preteens, teens, and certain ages. But I think the bigger point is, and there's a time and a place, like you said, G, like, hey, if you're in trouble, like for example, I forgot exactly what happened the other day, but I told Lena something she didn't do it. I was like, all right, Lena, so here's the thing. If you do this, you will get this because X, Y, or Z. So I'll just use tonight as an example. It's a different scenario, but I'll use tonight as an example. Like Lena ate a bunch of spaghetti, got on the floor. So I'm like, all right, cool. We're going to clean this up. When you clean this up, we can do this. And this is why. Because if we have food all over the floor, you're going to slip and fall, or there's going to be ants. You know those little bugs that come around? Because she always points at them. Like I try and relate it to something she has a grasp on and explain it to that. But at the end of the day, it's still a hard line of like, we're not negotiating it. That's the other thing I've also made a mistake of. I taught Lena how to negotiate already, like more for business. Like, hey, Lena, and like, yeah, what's Ashley saying here? What do we got?
No, she's basically reiterating what you're saying is that you want to make them feel validated, that they're not just being pushed to the side, that they don't have a voice, because that affects them later on. And another video that I even watched, I just sent it to you, Mr. Chaz, is that later on when, you tell them to calm down, whatever, because I said so. So now later on, you're teaching them if someone disagrees with them, that they're going to backpedal instead of defending themselves. Yes, at a point, how do you expect kids to have a voice if you're not allowing them to be heard and be feelings in their own home? So all these things are really, really huge. I'm trying to keep up your chat, Ash. I'm sharing your stuff as you're coming up here.
She's hammering it.
Yeah, no. Actually, you should stop just typing on Facebook and join us, to be honest with you.
She's probably laying with Lena in bed or on the couch, or I don't know. And I think that's also a great topic of conversation we talk about of Ashley and I's dynamic, even of like with the kids' responsibilities, because I'll be really transparent with you. A lot of the like kids stuff, the bedtime routine falls on Ashley's shoulders, and that's a strain, and that's not fair to her. And she is communicating that with me. So now we're working through like, how does that look like, and what can that be? And then hold on, look, I should have come on the live. Yeah, you definitely should have, Ash. I'm in bed.
I'm in bed.
All right, Lena's asleep, I think.
Okay.
Woo.
But exactly everything Ashley is saying is just validating. You want to be heard as an adult. Imagine being a toddler or a kid who doesn't know how to express that emotion and you're not listening to them. We get mad as an adult. We get frustrated as an adult. And again, we are not experts in any way. I'm watching someone like Mr. Chaz, and I like what the message he's putting out, and I believe in it. So I'm going to implement it and try. Do I get frustrated? Do you snap at your kids? That is normal too. And I'm sure we've all been there. Like even when we were at your house, you could see when someone's getting to all right, now, okay, I said this. I gave you options. Do what you want. You get to a point, but you try your best to not be that I told you so type situation. How well did it work for you? Because we know both our parents did it.
Yeah, exactly. So like, and that's the thing, man. Like, it's not like another great line is like, do as I say, not as I do. I'm like, that was the most infuriating one, personally. I love you, Dad, but that one I like. And sometimes we're just being like joking in hindsight, and other times like, all right, man, like, which I also understand. Like, we're gonna make mistakes, and that was always something I appreciated about my dad too. Like when I got older, in my like late teens and early 20s, he's like, Mike, do you think that like anything you're doing is something I haven't done or like made a mistake about? Like there's probably nothing you're going to do that I haven't experienced. And that was actually like, so I'll tell you a story that relates to this, because I felt validated and I felt like I could communicate. When it was my actual prom, my senior prom, I called my dad and my stepmom, Janet, to come get me from prom because we were in a scenario that we didn't want to be in. Mm-hmm. Certain dynamics I won't go into all the details of, but it was a scenario we didn't
Were you naked?
At one point, but that's not like that's totally okay. It was more like, and it was like, I don't know how much we could talk about on Amazon, but it was like what you would imagine is going on at like a high school prom.
And guys, I'm not being weird by asking if he was naked. Just a quick backstory. Mike, like every time he got drunk, we found him naked somewhere. Okay,
Yeah,
that was
that's a good
okay.
point.
We found him in the grass outside his house. You were skateboarding once, weren't you?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been in a lot of. I
But
played.
anyway, that's the backstory. That we've gotten phone calls where he's like, "I'm blah blah blah. I was out at a
Yeah.
party and I don't know where I am. I don't have clothes on." We're like, "Where's your clothes?" I don't know. Okay, cool, Mike. Well, find something and we'll come get you. Like, but
Like, what
anyway,
am I doing? Yeah, Ashley's keeping us on track. I see
there
you,
we
Ash.
go.
Back to breaking the cycle. Hey, don't.
So
This is
getting
part of
validated,
it.
Mike was
So
getting validated because you called your parents. Go ahead.
exactly, and because he kind of shared that with me, and I also had an experience earlier that year where like I crashed his car into a school building of all things,
When did
and
that happen? I don't
no
remember
one was
this.
in it. Yeah, this was like, I mean, he didn't make it a big deal, like, and that just
But
speaks
I
to
feel
the
like you would have
situation.
told me. But anyway, that'll be another story. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. So that's another, and it wasn't like no one got hurt. There was no kids in it. It wasn't like it was after hours, and like it wasn't like super crazy. But it was more so like I just lied about what happened, and then afterwards I realized he's like, hey man, you don't have to lie to me. So I called him up to pick us up from prom. He picked me and my friends up, and because of that dynamic, I was willing to do that. And that's just an example I want to use for that. Hey, you don't like going back to a cycle. There's a typical cycle that can happen that we can see is your parents are the authoritative figure, which it totally should be. They're not your friends, but you can also have this sense of
Yes.
like, I can count on you, or I can reach out to you and you'll help me when I'm in a situation that I shouldn't have been in. We don't have to worry about the getting in trouble right now or the ramifications. And then now I'm just reading the chat again. So that school came out of nowhere, Mike. Yeah, I know. It's not, yeah, don't judge
Yeah,
me.
Mike is acting like him hitting a school. Like it was just completely. I don't know how I didn't, unless I don't remember you telling me this at all. But
No,
I
I
mean,
definitely didn't tell you this story. It wasn't like I was doing donuts in a parking lot when it was a snow day, and like I just
okay. So this is a little bit of okay. So you weren't just like randomly, whoopsie,
no,
hey, school
yeah,
popped up out of nowhere.
no, which is still not the best move. I think that's exactly what Mark Cole said. What is that? What'd you say?
I feel
Him
like that's
too, Erin.
exactly.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's definitely what my dad. Well, first I told my dad, like, I don't know, I left the car outside in front of my friend's house, and I came out and it was like that. He's like,
That's
Mike.
what you told him?
Yeah, that's what I told my dad. I'm like, Dad,
Oh, come on, Mike.
I was like, I came outside my buddy Rob's house and the car was like that. I don't know what happened. And he's like, come on, dude. He's like, do you think like, you don't think I've been around the block? Like, you don't think I know? And then I was like, oh, I hit a stop sign. He's like, all right, Mike, let's look at the car together right now. And you tell me if you think, and I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, you tell me if you think a stop sign did that to the car. I was like, all right, man, this is what happened.
Yeah, stop sign definitely done. I ran over a stop sign in my college parking lot, and it went under the car and just broke, and my car was fine. But fun fact, yeah. Anyway.
But so going back to that cycle component, going back to the communication, the dynamics in the relationship, there can be so much of a fear of like, oh, well, I can't tell them because if they find out I was doing X, Y, or Z, or I was out after this time, I'm going to be in so much trouble. I'm going to get my butt whooped or the punishment or whatever's going to go on there. So even that dynamic, and that's like a whole nother aspect of the psychological component of the cycle of feeling guilt, and then this is another thing I want to unpack, but I'm curious, I want to kick it back to you, G, but I want to unpack this idea of like family over everything when it's like,
I'm sorry, I don't believe in that.
So that's like, and I want to give context. That's what I mean is we come from a very Italian, at least like the significant influence, and even like my mom's side, the German side, like they're all in Germany. So like my whole upbringing is like Italian influence. Even with my German mom and my German grandparents, like they were so much around our Italian family. And even the German family, like very much family. Point being, sometimes there's scenarios where like I don't either believe that necessarily either, because you don't necessarily pick your family, and I think blood's very important and family is very important, loyalty is very important, but when it comes to like, hey, I'm causing more harm than good, that's really a potential. And then, oh, what's up, Thomas? I see you. Thanks for the follow. And then, hey,
Here's
Stephanie.
just the most simplest way of putting it. You get treated like family when you act like family. And don't get me wrong, this may sound very harsh, and we've been through a lot of situations where and kids come first. But even and I know this is gonna sound messed up too, your kids, when it comes to the way they treat you too, if God forbid, your kid turns out to be a murderer, are you going to stand by them just because they're your kid? No, you're going to call the cop. Or at least, I don't know. This is my feeling. You've watched so many TV shows where they hide the murder for their kid, but you're not doing
Ashley.
the kid good. I feel like Ashley would be the mom who hides the body for Lena. But the thing is, like, in the long run, like, they were gonna go out and kill more kids. You're doing them more harm. Like, they gotta go to jail. Like, they need to be locked up somewhere. But you get treated like family when you act like family. If a family member is walking all over you, taking advantage of you, whether it's stealing money, addiction, anything, you don't get treated like family just because you're blood related. And I'm sorry. And there's people that, whether it's my husband's side or my side, that we had to kind of ex-nay because you don't treat us like family, and it just happens that way. And once you treat us like family and we feel we're getting the respect we deserve, we're going to give it back. We have people who are closer to us and treat us more like family than aren't blood related. Josh is too close to his friends, treat him more like family than anything, and he has his brother and his two friends. That's his closest people. Well, he has a few other friends, but yeah, those are his family. And again, blood does not define family. And I think that's the misconception. Family first. Arr! No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and there's even something. So Stephanie, you said this in the chat, and also Casey saying truth. Casey knows what's up. And then Stephanie, so she's saying, but my parents say family is family no matter what they do, which family is family no matter what they do. However, here's where it becomes a combination of potential codependency. There's like a whole other dynamic I've had to like deal with. Also, fun fact, transparent, like I've been pretty much in therapy to one capacity. Not like, I think it's a good thing. Like, I think everyone should go to therapy, as if we all get physicals, like annual physicals from a doctor. I think we should all be in therapy for like an annual kind of like checkup and then making adjustments. But I've been like going to therapy to one capacity, or experiencing that world since I was like 8 years old, like since, and nothing crazy. It's just my parents were getting split up, and I was really fortunate that I was in a school system that they had a therapy component to it if your parents are getting divorced, which is like, we grew up like super privileged, in my opinion, in a lot of ways. In other ways, maybe not so much. But point of saying all that is to say, if there's not a respect of boundaries, that's a key one. And that's something I had to work a lot on, is the boundaries. So bouncing off what you said, and that's even I had in my notes because I wanted to bullet point some things, is if they're not respecting boundaries, they're actually, you're not only, they're hurting you and your family, and like your family you're trying to create, like our kids and what we're trying to create, but then we're hurting them by allowing the behavior to continue. We're enabling. That's like the other enabling when it comes to addiction or alcoholism or, any kind of addict-based behavior, gambling. Like if we're enforcing that, we're enabling that situation. And that's like, to me, the only thing that I can do that's, I think, the best, or what I consider the best for my family, is to not enable them, is to do what I think is best 100%. For them.
You want to live by example too. What example am I setting for my daughter, that if there's people who are doing harm to not only me and my family, causing me stress, toxic relationships, but then saying, okay, you could be a part of my life. That is now allowing her, showing the type of relationship she should have later on down the road. I had toxic relationships growing up, whether it's friendships, whether it's boyfriends or anything. And from watching the dynamic in the household, and things have gone on, just because your family doesn't mean you allow them back in your life. And that allows and opens the door of abuse. That allows for physical and emotional abuse for later on down the road. And it is very hard. I'm not saying it's easy. It is very, very hard to make the decision. Very hard. Yeah, Amisha's like so right. It's so hard to make that decision where you got to cut someone off and it might hurt. And everyone's like, well, what happens if they get hurt tomorrow and you cut them off and you're going to feel guilty. Of course, I'll feel like a bag of crap, but I know that I had to do what's right for my family and set by example. Kids need to be led by example. And I want my daughter to learn that she is strong. She is independent. I feel like I'm going to cry a little bit. I feel like she needs to know that she's strong, she's independent, and that she does not need anyone who's going to take advantage of her in her life. And that's period. I've been through way too much stuff in my life to know that she deserves better. And that's it. And no one's going to tell me otherwise. Done.
And just piggybacking on what you said there again, is this dynamic of, as a parent, it's our responsibility and our role to protect our children. And that can mean different things to different people, but that's what I think is hard, is, because then there's that family dynamic, and I'll speak from maybe my own experience of like, well, you can see a toxic relationship in your family, but they refuse to address it because it's their parent or because it's their close relative or loved one. And although your headphones are making me...
Ashley said great job, and then she goes, your headphones. Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah. So but kind of saying that is, when you do that, like, I don't feel protected. And then hindsight, like, so, and I always actually, like, to be honest, I felt like, especially in our younger years, like, I always look forward to you guys coming over, the cousins coming over and family and stuff. But then as I got older, I felt like there was always this void. I'm even dealing with it now in therapy. Like, there's a void within me that drives me. And now I make up for it in business and in like athletic pursuits and entrepreneurial stuff. But there's like, and then I realized now it's like, because I didn't actually feel safe. Like, I felt my parents were like certain dynamics of choices. Like, they made great choices in a lot of ways, but some decisions not the best. And like, I don't make the best decisions either. I'm not saying it's their fault. Here's the important thing. And this is always something that affected me in a positive way, is this is a statement I want you guys to really think about. It's not your fault. No matter what happened to you in your childhood, in your life, with your parents, with family, with whomever, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility to deal with it. You could live. Yeah, exactly. You can live in like, well, yeah, like, oh, well, woe was me. I was abused, or I had addict parents, or like I had, whatever. Like, I'm trying to think of like different scenarios I've heard from people in the past or in therapy. And you can say, and that's unfortunate. And in some situations, you don't have any control, or being abused or anything like that. And that's horrible.
It's horrible, but grow from it. Don't let it consume you.
Exactly. You have to
break that cycle and learn how to grow from it. And I'll save it for other episodes because I'm pretty vocal about it and I don't mind talking about it, but we'll talk about trauma that we've been through. I'm sure there'll be other episodes. I don't know, again, on here when we're live on Amazon, I don't know how much we're allowed to talk about as far as that stuff, because there is like a boundary there. If we do an episode just on YouTube where we could do like a full raw episode, we might have to steer that over to YouTube. But my biggest thing is talking about it. Therapy is great. I've said it before. Therapy is amazing. I've been seeing the same therapist since I think I'm 6 years old. So she's known me from now to then. And again, my parents weren't sure where they were at points, and they felt it was best to put me in therapy. And that was one of the best decisions they could ever done. And I've kept her along the way, and she's known me through this. And she's a social worker. She knows kids and stuff like that. She actually, I don't know if she handles. I think she still handles adults. But anyway, she kept me around. She now texts me happy, Merry Christmas, all this stuff. But once you build that trust and you want to know that you're safe, that you said, you got to break that cycle of knowing of what's toxic, what's safe, what environment you want to grow your kids around too, and implementing that and putting it in there, and really don't worry what anyone else thinks. You want your family's going to hate you, or this person's going to hate you, or they're not going to be your friend anymore, or they're not going to be there. If they really loved you and supported you, they would either change their nasty habits or they would understand the decision you made, not force you into doing something else. I don't know. I'm just a big person on family is not defined by blood.
Yeah, and Stephanie, you had I wanted to go back to this because I think it ties in nicely here. It's like she said, what if it's your parents? Because they say we have to love and respect them, but it's not the same for us. We are nothing. I don't know. I was raised to respect my family. We can't say anything. We have no opinion. So like, that's like, and then I asked another question following up. And again, you guys don't have to dig into any of this. You're more than welcome to. I asked, and how do you feel that impacted your life and upbringing? Because that's another component too, is like, no matter what is instilled into you, is like, how did that impact your quality of life? Because sometimes I didn't realize like some dynamics of our childhood, or like my experience as a childhood wasn't abnormal. Because like, if I'm talking to you about it, or my cousin or my other cousin or my brother, whatever, it's like, we live directly in it. So we don't really have other experiences to compare it to. So when you start comparing it and you start telling stories later in life, you're like, oh, that wasn't normal, or that was different, or this was different, or they had different stories, or whatever that looks like.
I think the level of respect when it comes to that as well is there's a way you should be allowed to express your opinion, but it should be in a respectful way. Don't talk down to your parents, or don't be like, F you, F this. First, obviously, if it escalates here, that's a different story. But if you start off the conversation, hey, I'm feeling X, Y, and Z. You did this, it hurt me. I want to be heard. Not that it has to be swept under the rug. I'm your parent. I know best. You have to respect me just because I'm your mom or your dad. You got to do X, Y, and Z and respect my name. Okay, but you're treating me like ish. So I have to respect the fact that you're treating me like ish and walking all over me? Absolutely not. You get respect when you give respect. Period. That is like, that's it. I'm not going to respect someone who's disrespecting me no matter what your title is. I have a voice. I'm an adult. And I want my daughter to know that too, that no one can walk all over you, because you're going to have it hard for yourself. One, being a woman as well. Two, being biracial. Two, three, I don't know. I'm short, so being small in this world doesn't help. So I hope she's taller, but being small in this world, but you have the odds against you, and you need to have a voice and know how to use it. Again, don't be disrespectful when using it, but if be know you're allowed
Exactly.
to voice your opinion. Did Stephanie write back?
What? Yeah. And then so she said, well, and so I asked her, and then she dug into this. So I appreciate you sharing this, 70s. Well, because I couldn't express myself or say how I'm feeling, I had a mental breakdown. I still can't say why because they get mad. So this is a really important dynamic, see? And so I can't express myself or defend myself because I'm afraid of people getting mad at me. And then and first off, I appreciate you sharing that. And like, just like virtual hugs, and like, I can't express the
Yeah,
empathy
seriously, Stephanie,
of
thank you
that
for sharing
dynamic.
that with us.
And like that's a really powerful component, that I'm glad you, or not glad that you felt it, but I'm glad that you felt comfortable enough to share that. And you guys can share whatever you want here, and we'll continue to share our experiences. That's why I think this is so powerful, because like we all have dynamics, and like you can maybe look at like me and Gina, we're pretty bubbly, like excited, or like high energy people, so you may not know some dynamics that are going on there. And
Ashley
then yeah,
said
Ashley
something.
said a great thing. Yeah, my wife Ashley said, and this is for you, Stephanie, I'm
Ashley,
sorry
she
they're
come over
getting
to
mad at you.
Amazon.
Right? Come on over and hang out with us.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
sorry
talking to chat.
they're getting mad at you having feelings, Stephanie. That sounds really hard and unfair. 100%. And that's the other thing, is then because now, and then that starts to feed into this, like, I'm going to just call it abuse for lack of a better term, because maybe it's not physical, but it's emotional. When you can't feel comfortable expressing yourself with your family, what is family then? Like, what is that dynamic? Why would I want to be a part of that if I can't even communicate? Now, it's one thing if you're just like, especially when we're young kids, that's a dynamic of like, I'm not saying like lash out, but you still should be able to have a voice and be able to speak up for yourself and express yourself and communicate in a way where you feel protected and validated and understood at the end of the day too. Dr. Phil in the house, right?
Yep.
Diamond, you know what's up.
So yeah, and I'm glad again, I want to touch base on it, that like, thank you, Stephanie, for sharing and stuff like that. And that's the thing that it leads down, and what needs to be broken the cycle is knowing that you're allowed to be who you are, allowed to express how you're feelings, and what, something traumatic happened in your life and you have to be quiet because they're embarrassed? Absolutely
Exactly.
not.
Yeah, like no.
They should be there for you no matter what the traumatizing experience is, and help you and walk you through it, and to me, then again, you're not being family at that point. So why should I treat you like family if you're not going to treat me like family? It's
Exactly.
it's at that point, it's a slippery slope, and then the rest of your life you feel like you can't express yourself, you can't talk about things. Oh, I'm scared to share this, I don't have that voice, I don't have that opinion. It slowly just kind of snowballs into this dark place. It could turn dark very fast and very quickly. And that's what people don't get about those, let's sweep it under the rug, even when it comes to like talking about if you have an addiction, or if
Oh
you
yeah.
have at this, people are scared 90% of the time to even talk or ask for help because they're scared of
What's
embarrassing their family.
Exactly, or what's going to be considered. And then Casey, you mentioned something good in your chat too that I think ties in nicely here, is there's an elevated tolerance of chaos. If that's all you know, it leads to a cycle of horrible relations and relationships. So like, and even just decisions and the components that come along with that. So being able
What
to,
you
like you
allow
said,
in your relationship.
exactly. So even like you said, Gina, like addiction too. Like, so there's, again, I'm not like a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I have a passion for psychology and sociology. I do have a bachelor's degree in the interdisciplinary field, with sociology being a part of that. So like, that does not qualify me to speak on like certain dynamics, but I'll just share from my own perspective and experience and thoughts on that dynamic of maybe the potential like hereditary or genetic predisposition to addiction, but then also just the brain chemistry that happens from life development. And then also, like, fun fact, like head trauma plays a massive role in bad decisions and what part of our brain works. And that starts to create this potential feedback loop into like chemical addiction, or even that's where like gambling or behavior, like, to be honest with you guys, I'm gonna be really transparent here. Like, I would put myself in an addict category. Now, I may not be addicted to drugs in the typical sense, or I may not be addicted to like alcohol in that traditional sense, but I have a very addictive personality. Like, fighting for me was my addiction for a long time. Before that, even like fitness and working out became almost unhealthy. And then the dynamics there. And now, like, I think I still have that, but I think it's more like the business. I'm like addicted to it. And I can see with my parents, I feel like all of our parents were workaholics too, like in a good way, like where they were focusing and grinding and going and getting after it and all that. But there's all this like tendencies that start to become, because we're probably not dealing with stuff, like those dynamics that are at play there as well.
There's a million and one things that to me play into this. It's I think it's the understanding of also coming from a generation where men are men, we have to be tough. What happened?
I'm just laughing at Casey because she's like multitasking is your addiction. I'm like that too.
Yeah,
Casey.
I would say I'm an addict too, in a sense. My family has very addictive personalities. It runs in our family. It runs in both of our family. It runs in my husband's family. So trust me, I lose sleep at night about worrying about addiction for my daughter. Whether it's food, whether it's actual drugs, alcohol, I lose sleep. I watch you guys know the show Euphoria, right?
Yeah. Well,
I've had
no, I'm just saying.
anxiety.
Yeah, I don't know that show.
You don't know you don't watch Euphoria?
No, I don't know about the show.
Ashley, do you watch Euphoria?
Ashley's
Please tell me,
thrown
Ashley.
under the bus.
Please tell me you watch Euphoria, Ashley. Well, anyway, the show Euphoria I think they're on the third or second season now. I can't remember the one that just came back. But please watch it, Mike. It's actually really good. Zendaya is in it, and it's about the main character's going through drug addiction, and she hides it. Yeah, okay. So please make Michael watch it. It's one of the best talked about, like directed even from a photography standpoint. Josh loves what they do. But anyway,
okay.
addiction and the main character's an ongoing addict and how she dealt with it through high school. It reminds me of my friend Lauren to a T. Like that's Lauren. Like this show,
yeah,
he could have wrote this. Like that's how crazy it is. So when I watch it, not only was it a little bit triggering for me that it made me feel like very high anxiety, but now having Logan here, the second season here, Logan's here, right? So I'm watching this, and they're kids in high school. They're all going through high school. So watching this gives me such anxiety. I sat there and cried before watching this show because it was so triggering, and the realistic things that my daughter can go through, and addiction, and being in high school, and all this stuff. It was crazy. Like it's a really good show, but that's like such a trigger for me. Like that I worry about Logan having the problem or anything like that. But I think if we're open about it from day one, talking about it, not sweeping it under the rug, not trying to protect her, not being overbearing, having the communication. As you know, my parents were very strict. Don't get me wrong, did I probably deserve half the stuff? But then I think the strictness also led to the rebellion. So I think it was a back and forth. Yeah, it was just a balancing act. You punished me, I'm going to find a way to get out.
Lash out.
Yeah, exactly what Euphoria, I'm bringing that right now. Just to keep it open. That's exactly. So I just feel like even I think I was at my mom's house and she lifted up her shirt showing her belly, and it's like, oh, wait for that moment when she wants to walk around in belly shirts and you have to tell her she can't. I'm like, to be honest with you, as long as it depends on the child. If she is understanding her body and doing it in a respectful way and her belly button is showing, okay, I'm not going to shame her and be like, go change your outfit right now. You look like a hooker on the corner. Like, that's how they were raised in that generation to make the kids feel. I don't know. How do you feel about having girls with that? Like.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think to your point though, that's like a big thing I have. Like, for example, I love my like I love our family, but there's certain dynamics. Like even like I won't go into the specific details, but like having someone in your family point out things that you may be insecure about. Because let's be honest, if we're wearing things like that, there's usually one of three reasons why. One, it's fashionable. It's just what's going on, what everyone's doing. Mm-hmm. Two, you want attention. And then maybe 2A, like you want attention because you don't feel good about yourself or you feel insecure. Or 3, you do feel good about yourself and you still want attention for other dynamics that you're making up for. And if we're criticizing someone for wanting those things, that's, again, not feeling validated. It goes back to validation. Like, we all just want to be validated at the end of the day. So we're good. Like, to your point, with girls, like, I just want them to, like, even now, me and Ashley are very mindful, like, what words I use in front of them. So, like, I tell, like, especially when they, in the first year of their life, like, I would say these things to them, like, you are strong, you are confident. And, like, my mother-in-law would do it. And then even now we still have it. Like when Lena sees me working out, she goes, "Oh, Daddy, you got big muscles. You're strong." I'm like, "Lena, you say you're strong, right?" Because then I make her like go like I'm like, "Hey, do you want to lift this up or go do a pull up?" Or so the point of is making them feel good about their body, making them feel good about their choices, feeling. And if they want to wear like, obviously there's gonna be things I don't agree with, and I'm still. This is where I'm torn. If they decide to bring a boy home, a girl home, whatever they're into, whoever they decide to bring home, I'm still at that point of like, I'm kind of going to want to be like a little bit harsh on them, be like, hey, like take care of my daughter, don't break their heart, whatever. Like, fun fact, like watch this highlight video. I knocked this person out in 11 seconds. What do you think I'll do to you? And I'm not going to do anything. Well, maybe I will. I don't know. Fun fact for anyone in the future watching, you're thinking about dating my daughters. I don't know. But that's my long-winded rant of like, I want them to feel good, but I always will. Again, I think it goes back to the conversation, like, why do I think you shouldn't be wearing this? Instead of saying, don't wear this, here's my thoughts. This is what people may perceive. Because guess what I'm going to tell the girls. This is what, like, talk to Ashley about too. Like, I'm going to tell Lena today, yeah, I'm adorable. Exactly. Yeah, like, so we were listening to Maui or Moana. What can I say except you're welcome? And then, like, in one part of the song, he's like, oh, it's adorable. Like, they say that. And then, like, we say like, oh, Lena, you're adorable. And she goes, yeah, I am adorable. Like building up those things and wanting to do that. And then being able to say like, hey, I'm going to have an open conversation with you. I'm going to tell you, like when I was a kid and I was your age as a boy, this is what I was seeing when I would look at girls and they were wearing things like that or what in a hypothetical scenario. And if you're okay doing that, totally fine. But understand this is what could potentially happen. And then you're still going to have to make your own mistakes in life. I'm going to try and mitigate that.
Let me stop you there for a second. But how about instead of worrying about putting more clothes on the girl, teaching boys how to look at women differently? Let's bring that back. Instead of telling a girl you're going to be looked at as X, Y, and Z, how about we change and break that cycle of teaching our young boys on how to respect women properly and not look at them a certain way just because they're wearing a certain thing. Just because you're wearing a belly shirt doesn't mean you got to look at them like that. Yes, you could have a feeling. Yes, you could obviously feel some type of way. You could be attracted to them. That's totally normal.
For sure.
So,
but I think
I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong, but I'm just saying like that because we had a conversation that we were in the living room, right? And Michelle, what's her name? Catwoman, whatever, who played Catwoman? Whatever it was an actress. She had a low cut dress on, right? Low cut dress on. It was a ball gown, right? Like a beautiful gown.
Nice.
And so my dad goes, oh, that's low cut. That's exposed. Like, hello, like da 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 da. And I'm like, it's a low cut dress. What's the problem? Like, what's the big deal? She's like, oh, people not to stare at her and judge her with that. I'm like, okay, yeah, they might look at her a little bit. Like, don't get me wrong. I know people are going to look when you wear certain things, but you shouldn't be staring at them like this and like, oh, titty. Excuse my language. Breast.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yes, there we go. Whoever it was. And
that was Serene.
And whatever. So I'm like, there's nothing wrong with what she's wearing. And then my mother jumped in and said that, like, oh, well, that's this. You can't expect that. That's disgusting, or this and that and the third. Like, cover up. That's not appropriate. Why are you telling a woman to cover up? That is inappropriate. Obviously, yes, depending on the setting. But, you know, there's certain things maybe you are a little bit more work appropriate, not work appropriate, and stuff like that. But let's change the dynamic and teach our boys and young men and everyone how to respect each other, how to look at each other, instead of telling women to put more clothes on, depending on the scenario. Yes, there's different scenarios. I'm not saying this goes for every different thing. But
Holly Berry or Haley Berry? Holly Berry? Am I saying
Berry, that was it. Oh, Uncle Mark was there for this entire conversation. I was actually very proud of you, Uncle Mark. You just sat there quietly. Whether he had an opinion or not on this, I don't know.
You could share an opinion. Like, that's totally fine.
Absolutely. But the way that they went at each other, like, oh, they bit my heads off over this. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, let's not teach people.
You're talking about my dad was there too.
Yeah, no, your dad was in the room for this. So your dad was so cute too. So all of a sudden he turns around and goes, "Oh wow, that is a low cut dress."
Like, yeah, all right.
Like that, and he was so respectful. He knew not to even say anything. I think at that point. But if I'm a strong woman and I'm comfortable with my body and skin, and I'm going to an event where I'm going to wear a gown and I feel comfortable wearing a little bit low cut shirt, I shouldn't have to be shamed or shamed or body shamed for wearing what I want to wear. Control your boys. Teach your boys differently. So, or women or whoever, teach your children differently and how to respect each other. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion. But
I agree with both, but I think it's also, here's the priority to me is not only, yes, when I have sons, right? Like, so me and Ashley, fun fact, me and Ashley are going to keep having kids until I have at least one son, just because I want to have at least a boy and a girl, even if it takes us 7 girls. I don't care. I mean, I say that now. It's easy for me to say it's not my body. So Ashley, you totally open to your thoughts on that. But the more important piece here is, yes, I agree. We should teach our men out there, young men, how to treat women. However, in the meantime, I think it's also important to prepare women for the inevitable reality of there being scumbags. And that doesn't dismiss and make it okay. I want to be very clear with that. It doesn't give permission or saying it's okay for how certain guys will be, but the unfortunate, it's like, that's like saying, maybe this is a weird perspective, but it's like going to a zoo. This is a weird, I'm going to just try and piece this together as I go. It's like going to a zoo and trying to retrain an animal to do something against their instincts as far as guy goes. And again, I'm not saying that it's okay for anyone to make anyone else
you're coming from.
feel calm. Yeah, I'm not saying like you should just oogle them and like grow. Here's the thing that drives me nuts. This is what I will say, like in a club especially. Check this out, right? And like Gina, you could speak to this as a female. I'm sure a lot of females can speak to this. Just because you could wear whatever you want to wear. Where I draw the line, oh, what's up, Lee? I see you in the chat. Yeah,
you see what Ashley's saying in the chat? She's like, we are not. What the WTF?
we are, yeah, right. We're going to have all the kids, all the babies. Yeah, Lee. Also, go check out Lee. If you guys are on Facebook, go check her out. She's got some awesome stuff. Lee, drop your stuff in the chat.
But don't be blind to reality, she's saying. Like 100% to teach and get them prepared for that. Also know how to respect your bodies and set a boundary with that as well. You know, don't be that, you know, girl who flashes herself at a bar or something. Like there's a difference between that as well, which again, if you want to go to a nudist and be topless, that's completely up to you. That's totally fine as well. Showing your body in a sense as well. Everything is what you're comfortable with, but also know that you're doing it with confidence, know what the repercussions can be. And if you're going to do it, stand by those repercussions, you know, or those voices. We are not so young anymore, Michael. That's Ashley's just going in on you right now.
And that's where we could foster, we can adopt. Like I'm fine with all the above options.
There you go. Just adopt a boy then. There you go.
That's my game plan. Anyways, but I think just like doubling down on that. So I think it's like, so I want to draw a parallel here. I want to slightly shift gears, draw a parallel, because I think there's a dynamic of like, yes, I agree that men should be held accountable. And I think that women should also be educated. Not that you're not educated now, but like stressed, like, hey, there's going to be scumbags. And it is our responsibility as parents to change the men and to have an influence there. And then to also realize like what we're doing. And then on the flip side, so I want to make this weird parallel. And I saw like Lee's comment. Lee, you made me think of this because like when I see Lee, I think of the gym and I think of the gym owner, Johnny. Shout out to Johnny Buck. So Johnny has posted some great stuff about this dynamic of like the media glorifying unhealthy approaches to like, let's even say obesity, for example. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't be comfortable in your body. However, I think there's a difference when you're glorifying and empowering unhealthy behavior patterns. It's not the body that I care about. It's what's the behavior patterns? What's the choices that we're making? That even ties back into like family dynamics. Like, it's at the end of the day, we should look for what's the healthy behavior pattern, which goes outside of my scope when it comes to psychology and things like that. But for our overall, like, just quality of life, and then how is that impacting that? And then to educate and to hold people accountable to it. Like, hey, guess what? When you're morbidly obese, I don't care how confident you are, you're more likely to die from a variety of different conditions and chronic diseases. Metabolic syndrome is going to kick in. Like, that's just the reality. To ignore that, or on the flip side, to say, hey, it's only on women. You guys are dressing X, Y, and Z. It's not on men. Or to only put it on men. And not saying that's the case either. I think by far that's not the case. But in any duality of the extremes there, I think it's important to just have that accountability, but have a conversation too. Be able to talk about this and then have influence from that component with the conversation.
Yeah,
looking at all the chat. I'm just trying to catch up here.
Yeah, no, they're going ham right now. Hi, Lori, how are you? Yeah, no, it's just like, again, back to breaking cycles. That mindset of women have to act a certain way. You know, that's another cycle that we need to break. You know, first off, we should be able to do whatever we want. Oh, women don't burp. Women don't fart. Women don't do this. Oh my God, like, I have to sit home and make dinner for my husband the moment he walks in the door. Like, what?
What if you're okay with that, though? What if that's what you want?
That's fine.
That's different, right?
But again, I don't like when women feel like that's the way it should be for everyone.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point
You
too.
tell me that I need to have dinner ready for my man at the table because X, Y, and Z, or like as if I need to be a housewife, I need to be a mother, and that's my only sole priority, and my only job in life is to procreate. You know, that is not my sole purpose on this planet, is to be a woman, pop out your kids, and sit here and wait patiently until you get home. That's not my purpose in life. My purpose is to have a partnership with someone and have someone who respects me mutually and loves and supports what I do. You know, that is hi, you look serious. Yeah, we're getting diving in here. Takes many years in therapy to come to terms with not only why you do this, but how to cope with it and heal and move forward. 100%. 100%. It's not until probably I met my husband that I realized the difference of the dynamic of our family and other things that affected me back in the day, to be honest with you. And I've been in therapy since I'm 6. So until we got into a different relationship and saw how other families and people manipulate, moved, I mean, that it happened. Serious talk. Okay. Yep. Sometimes being able to deal with obesity, it starts with the feeling like you love yourself. That's a great point too. Mike answered, he can make his own dang sandwich sometimes. Exactly. Just realize you're on. That's my point. Women just feel like they have to like do everything and bear that weight, and that's your role in society. That is not my, don't get me wrong, I like being a mom, but my career is very important to me. You know, my job, I'm a business owner. That stuff is very important to me, and I worked very hard for it. So I'm not just going to throw it away because I had a kid. And my husband doesn't expect me to. He does a lot as a father. And again, dads are not babysitters. Mike, you're not a babysitter. You're their dad.
I'm a parent, yeah.
You're their dad. Josh is their dad. Like, let's break that cycle too of people feeling like, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say, let's talk about this. So, like, breaking the cycle of, like, think about Poppy and there's nothing to throw shade at my Poppy.
I don't know if Poppy changed one diaper.
That's what I'm saying. And there's nothing. I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a representation of the times, and that's an example of breaking a cycle. It doesn't mean that there's judgment associated with that. And Pineapple's got, what's the topic? That's a great question.
Kind of like the original topic where we started from, were parents' behaviors and carrying them onto your kid. Will you break the cycle, or breaking cycles? So we're talking about like old stereotypes, old habits, family habits, and breaking those cycles and breaking them down, and how you move forward. So we were talking about, as Mike was saying, you know, the times of what a male role in a relationship as far as being a parent and so forth. And then what I was saying is like being a mom and what my role is, or what people's society feels my role should be. And so forth. But again, I hate when people are like, oh my God, you're so lucky. Your husband does so much. He watches the kids. Oh my God, he changes diapers. Oh my God, he does this. Yeah, that's what they're supposed to do. They made these kids together, and women shouldn't expect anything less.
So I think that's an important point. It's a partnership. It's not, but, and I think just like in any partnership and so I say in relationship, there's 3 things you need in a relationship: trust, communication, and a desire to be there. Meaning we have to be able to communicate with one another. And this is any relationship, like me and you, me and my wife, me and my kids, me and my dad, me and my brother, whoever, friends. You have to be able to communicate with one another. You have to be able to trust each other, and you have to be able to both want to be there and show up. If any one of those things falters, you're losing a steady relationship, or it's not going to work. My point of saying that is that goes back to communication with partners. Like, and I think it's important to say, like, hey, we can break down this dynamic of like, hey, like, for example, let's say Poppy. Let's say hypothetically Nanny had to run to the store really quick. Do you think if any one of the kids had a dirty diaper, that Poppy, he would wait for Nanny to, I don't know if this is true, but I'm just speculating based on stories and what I would say, he would let them sit in a diaper. And it's not knocking shade to him. Poppy was amazing. He made so many sacrifices. Literally, our family lives the American dream, in my opinion, on both sides, because of what our families have sacrificed, because of Nanny and Poppy, because of my Umi and Upi, like what they sacrificed to allow us to be here. Anyways, point being, the ability to just communicate and say like, hey, like, all right, I'm not saying I expect you to do everything, but I expect you to do X, Y, or Z. We're going to split this. And then communication is key in anything.
Also, Lady M had a point too. She said, I have felt bad about myself about myself. If he has been out working all day, I'm home with the kids, and he comes home and the house looks crazy, even though I've been working since before sun was up. But some folks feel like stay-at-home moms does nothing. So to that, I agree and disagree with you, Lady M, because if I've been home with the kids, with my kid all day, and my husband comes home from work, I'll cook dinner. Don't get me wrong, but I really don't care if the house is a mess. I'm tired too. Like you said though, a stay-at-home mom is a full-time job. Me and my husband both express that we can't be with Logan all day and then sometimes have to work. Josh does it and helps me out a lot. He does work at night and in his office, and he has a little bit more, I don't know if it's a man thing or what, he has a little bit more patience than I do. You would think as the mom I would have more patience. I don't know. I lose him very easily. Maybe that's just me. But I'm not one who like cares if the house is too tidied up or not or stuff like that. We do try to clean it at night. Being a stay-at-home mom is one of the hardest jobs you could do. And then to own a business, and then to be a wife, then to be a husband or vice versa, and then have 2 dogs and a house you have to worry about. It's 24/7. So, and everywhere, and even Pineapple said every relationship is different, 100%. But don't expect me to cook, clean, run a business, do this, do that, and then you don't even change a diaper. Get out of here.
Right. Exactly. And I think it's also important to, going back to the communication thing. So like, shout out to Ash. Like Ash tonight's a great example of, I had like meetings and whatnot from a certain time. I'm also not in the gym this week because I couldn't go in for different reasons. And so I was like, cool, I have some bandwidth. I'm going to have meetings. I'm going to give the kids a bath. I'm going to get them in their jammies. I'll get them ready for bed. Then from like 7 to 8, I had another set of calls that I was taking and doing with clients. And then Ashley was getting them ready for bed. And then she thought, I guess we were streaming like right after that. But there was an hour gap from 8 to 9 where I wasn't streaming. I was just kind of doing some miscellaneous stuff. And then I was just kind of like down, like a little bit of downtime. And Ashley was like, dude, you could have helped me with the kids, like just by communicating that. In hindsight, it would have been great, like ahead of time. But she said like, hey, like this is, I can't do this by myself. Like help me. Yeah. That's massive. So shout out to Ashley. I think as a partner, all of us should feel empowered to be able to communicate that. But I know from, at least with Ashley and from talking to you, G, like the dynamic, and was that, so tonight, what'd you say? Yeah, bedtime, was that?
Yeah, and bedtime sucks.
Tonight. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ash.
Yeah, so that's a great example. So like, yeah, sleep by 7:30. They didn't go to sleep until 9:30 tonight. So that's exactly. So like, and again, and then Ashley feels like she's carrying that burden by herself because she doesn't have her partner that's carrying an equal load, right? And then that's where I think also there. And if listen, if you're in a relationship where you guys have an agreement where like, hey, I handle the kids from this time to this time, and I'll do this from this time to this time, or if that's your dynamic, cool. If you saying, hey, you're the mom and you're gonna go to work and I'm gonna stay at home and you're the stay-at-home dad, and that's your cool. If it's flipped, you're stay-at-home mom and dad, whatever that is. But I think even before you have kids, communicate that. And then me and Ashley try to continuously communicate it, and I'm trying to evaluate where can I pick up the slack. And also originally, like honestly, my ego kicks in. I was like, dude, I gave them a bath. Like I put them in their jammies. Is that not enough for you? But then I realized like, no, dude, like I could have helped even more, but I didn't. Yeah. And that's, I think important piece. Now, I'm just sharing from my personal experience, not saying I'm right or wrong, but just to give you guys a personal example.
Let me stop you right there with that the fact that you even notice this is happening is another breaking of the cycle. We're all bringing it back full circle. And Pineapple, I'll read your comment in just a second, that the fact of that you're able to realize this and communicate that's the whole point of breaking these cycles, is teaching your kids that it's okay to communicate. You need to communicate. It affects your relationship. Telling your kid because I said so and ending the conversation and not letting them have a voice doesn't allow this. Doesn't allow that thought process, and then when men speak to their wives or the wives speak to their husbands a certain way because I said so, I'm the man in the house or I'm this in the house, that all stems down from how your household was from day one. And to me, that's super, super important. And Pineapple said, outsiders may not agree with a relationship, but what they think don't matter because they don't understand the connection. I get that. Like every connection is different. If you're okay being a servant to someone and making them a sandwich when they snap their fingers, that's up to you. Cool, kudos. But doesn't mean you're not being taken advantage of. And it's right, at the end of the day. I mean, but if that's what you feel your sole purpose is, cool.
Wait, so I'm gonna pause you right there. Let me explain to me. Tell me more about what you mean feeling taken advantage of, because I think I understand. I want to get context to it though.
Say someone is in a scenario in a relationship where all they do all day long is wait on someone, hands and foot. You don't feel that's taking advantage of the person? Like if they're home 24/7 with the kids, everything, and then they walk in the door, they have to have the laundry done, this done, that done, all this stuff, and not be able to complain about it or that feel like that they have to do it or they can't communicate with their partner that they need help.
I think that's the key piece you just touched on at the end, because I'm even cool with all the other stuff if that was discussed and they both agree upon that and they're like, hey, this is what is best for us, and you agree upon that. But I think the bigger thing to me is when, if some, like for example, let's say Ashley,
more than you get right here. That's Ashley hit the nail on the head. They're giving more than they get back. To me, that's being taken advantage of.
Well, and I think it's one thing if it's like you both agree to it and you want that for whatever reason because maybe they're getting it a different way. But when it becomes you're unable to, like for example, if Ashley said this to me and I was like, hey Ash, guess what? Tough S. I don't care. I'm not doing any more work. And guess what? I'm going to do or I don't know. I'm just dumping things on her and she can't come to me and communicate with me, which she probably actually feel like, Ash, be honest, you probably feel at some capacity or another, you can't come to me in all the ways. Cause like fun fact, everyone, I'm an emotional person. I may not seem like it on the anger side, but I can get like really angry, like really, really angry. And I try and use the gym and have different outlets. And hopefully like Ashley's not scared of me because of that, but I can imagine this is another aspect of breaking the cycle. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent, but I hopefully think this will make sense here. And this dynamic is like, I don't want my kids to be afraid of me. There's been moments where I've been afraid of my dad or of Poppy or of Oopie or of like,
I agree with that too.
You know, I don't want my kids to be afraid of me. And I can see it, dude. Like I can see sometimes me and Ashley will just be talking and I start raising my voice, like even when I do it on this podcast, because I don't realize it. And then Lena interrupts us because she hears me raising my voice and she's like, oh, can I have a sandwich or can I do that? And you could tell it's a calculated move to get us to stop because she doesn't like the noise.
Logan does that at this age now. And not to cut you off, I do say that they're going in the chat here. Have to think though, but when you want something, do you get it? Yes, that's what I mean too. I'm talking about a relationship where the woman is doing all day long and the man doesn't even turn around and say, do you need anything?
Yeah, that's
do you want anything? Can I help you? You know, to me, that's being taken advantage of. And there's certain women who feel that, or even vice versa. Sometimes the man is the stay-at-home dad, and it's vice versa. I'm just using the typical too loud, Lena. I could picture Lena doing that. So I'm talking about a scenario where, you know, the other person doesn't even ask if they're okay. You know, where, you know, the women or men feel like that's their job or that's their purpose, you know, and then the other person knows that they have the power and they're doing that, not even caring about the other person's scenario. Yes, if someone's working overnights all night long, the woman is out. I'll use the woman for an example. The woman is out working like 12-hour shifts overnight, and all they want to do when they come home is sleep and don't really have time to help out as much, but they care. Like, and you pick up the slack. That's a different story. You know what I mean? But just I think I'm taking the person who sits on the couch and expects this person to do everything they need. Making things expected, not discussed. That's too exactly. Hey, if we go out, I'm sorry, dude, I'm drinking or driving. Yeah, that's a different story. Like again, it's that line. What's the line of communication in the relationship?
Right.
And I want my daughter to feel like she can have a voice in her relationship because I'm tired of hearing that you're so lucky you have that because my husband doesn't doesn't even offer to help. That shouldn't be normal. That shouldn't be like, oh my God, like no, that's what I look for in a relationship. That's what I want my daughter to look for in a relationship. For a guy who cares about her or girl or at whoever or pronoun she's with.
Whatever you identify as, that's fine.
Whatever she decides to path she decides to go down, that the relationship and partner she is with, it's an equal partnership. And that they care about each other. They balance each other out. Because me and my husband, yes, we do bump heads about like working, who works when, who goes schedule and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we sit down and try to figure it out together.
And you communicate, but you communicate.
As a kid, I felt being afraid and respect is blurred. Some don't realize they are using fear as respect. That is
for sure.
That is huge. I don't want, like you said, Mike, I don't want Logan to be scared of me. And when me and Josh are arguing, she literally had put her head between me and Josh and go, hi. And like, we're like, okay, this is affecting her, so let's stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think just having the awareness to it is powerful and important, which like, I'm not saying our parents weren't aware of it, but it was like, then there's the justification of this is what's normal. This is how I was raised. or whatever dynamic of that. And that's where I think it's our responsibility to reflect on this and be able to adjust and change. I also think what comes into play here, and tell me what you think about this with breaking cycles, is like, think about like every generation prior to us, there was like a major war or dynamic to think about that was like related around violence or something like that, which can create a precedent or like just this bond that happens. And then you just like, all right, well, we're just doing this because this is what's working and we're just surviving, we're getting by. Now we're in the last like 30 years, probably I don't know, I'm not a historian, but it's a significant time in our life where like with technology, with even when the economy's in a recession, like I don't want to speak too much into the financial stuff, but like just being able to not have to worry about, hey, there's a bomb going to go off down the block from us. Like Umi and Upi would tell me stories like being in Nazi Germany during World War II. Like, that's crazy. Or like Poppy, for example, being in the war during World War II and fighting. And like he went out with family and friends, 4 of them in a picture. I remember this, and like one of them came back, and it was Poppy. You know, at like 25% of them, like that's crazy. Like, anyways, so I don't really have anywhere to go with that. I just want to throw that out there.
We have in the chat, Pineapple wrote, my cousin is a hard worker, great mom, but not a cook. Her husband constantly says things like, I wish she knew how to cook, and start just saying all these things about her. I feel so sad that he talked down on her like that. Again, that's another stereotype and things that, you have to be a cook to be a great wife or this and that. And I feel bad. That is sad. I feel I'm with you on that, Pineapple. They don't even realize that they are acting a certain way. That's how they were raised. Exactly. And this all is going back to breaking the cycle. That is the whole thing with this. I was raised, I'm the parent, adult, you're the child, you do as I say. That didn't help me because because when I was abused, I felt I didn't have a voice.
Exactly.
Because I'm a kid. Yes, 100%. And Lady M and all you guys are saying this. That is the way they were raised back in the day, that these things had to be hidden. And we all have this. Yes, that Mike and I know firsthand when it comes to family, that our families were always very hush-hush about things. Like, it's embarrassment, it's this, it's that. You do as I say. I said no because I said no. You do as I say. I'm the parent. I'm sorry, that's not a way to raise your kids, in the sense of like, again, if they're just not listening, they're not going to listen. Let's just put it that way. You saying no because I said so is not going to make them do it. Like, it's just going to suppress everything they're going through. Make that line. Mike is so good at this too. And me and Josh spoke about this at Mike. I don't know if I told you, spoke about this after we came home, on how much we loved your and Ashley's dynamic and how you spoke to the kids.
Yeah.
And how, we really loved how you communicated with Lena and how it worked. I think one example was even letting her make her own decisions. Like, she was standing on the chair and she was standing on this chair, and obviously she could get hurt, right? She could fall, whatever. And you turned around and you said, you turned around and went to her. I think you said to Lena, like, oh, okay. Now, Lena, let's think about this. What can happen right now? You're standing on this chair. It's super high. You're either going to fall and get hurt, or I don't know. There was another option.
She's like reaching for something. She was like trying to grab something.
Or you could ask for help. I think that's what you said. Or you could ask for help. So what do you want to do? You could obviously get hurt here. And she turned around and she's like, Daddy, I need some help. So she wasn't scared to ask for help or feel like she was going to get scolded. Get off the chair right now. I said, you're going to hurt yourself. Be careful. No, he said, like, well, you're going to get hurt. So either ask me for help, which I'm here for you, and get down. It was just a way of going about it that it hurt. It could be such a different line of communication and helping them not to be fear and have a voice. On the other hand, women are so programmed to please men, please parents, so end up being the doormats. That does happen a lot. Statistically, that does happen. And that's why I want my daughter to learn otherwise and break that cycle, and as as Mike does with his kids. Nowadays, all these social media is some type of error. This is true. True, but so much pressure on women and girls to dress, look, and act a certain way to be seen as attractive. That is another good point as well.
And then I got Serene saying here in the chat, it's hard to hear this even now, like just going over our conversation and what we're talking about, because she also mentioned, when the kids are wishing their parents would get divorced just to stop the arguing, that's like my childhood. Like, that's like, I totally get that. And like in other dynamics going on there as well, not just with my parents, and I think it's also like what's expected of society, right? Like divorce has been more accepted, so it's more of a viable option, and that's a dynamic of it. But basically saying like, hey, I wish they would just break up so they'd stop arguing, kind of a component, and some other things. And then she said like, it's hard to even hear this now, and the same urges and things come up. So like she said, talking about it is healthier and therapeutic, and I think that's exactly being able to communicate, be able to have a conversation about it, because this is so stigmatized, or at least it was. I don't know now, maybe I don't spend as much time on it, but I think it's important to have these conversations and look at that dynamic.
And also, Lady M, I don't want you to feel like I brushed over what you said there, because she said, I didn't help me because when I was abused, so she opened up about that. Lady M, we're here for you. Thank you for opening up. Virtual hugs about that. I don't want you to feel like we passed that or didn't recognize it. So I think we all have our forms and abuse of trauma that we'll touch base on, but I thank you so much for opening up. And that's another reason we wanted this space and this discussion too. Whoever feels comfortable, whoever wants to talk about it, you're here. You never have to say what the trauma you went through is, but if you feel like sharing your point of view or what you've been through, we are here. And we thank you, Lady M, for opening up and bringing that point to the discussion, because I feel the same way. I think it was only the last 5 years that I really opened up things about my parents that I've been through that they might have had an inkling to, but didn't know, but I didn't feel like I could talk about with them. So, and they're like, why didn't you come and tell me? Because I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just didn't feel like like I could at that point.
Yeah.
Or I just felt like it wasn't right to, because this is not something you're supposed to talk about.
Yeah. Like shame, embarrassment, guilt, like.
Exactly. So I think it was more so talking about it in the sense of later on, I knew it's okay to communicate. And I want, that is so key to me. I want my daughter to come to me if something happens to her, where she could say, Mommy, this happened, or this happened, and not feel shame or guilt and breaking the cycle. And I know that's not our parents who did that intentionally.
No,
but
of course not.
They never meant for us to feel like that, but it happened. And that was the old school way of thinking, with those stereotypes of, shame, embarrassment to the family, all that shit. Excuse my language.
And then the default of like, not that I think it's particularly our family, just society in that age is like, well, what did you do to justify said action? Or like, why were you in that situation? What did you like, which is like such a crazy thing to say to someone. That's like saying, if you got robbed, what were you doing to get robbed? Or I don't know, it's a weird analogy, but it's like, it shouldn't fall on the victim or the person saying like, hey, what did you do to deserve that? That's not right. And then, it's just such an important, and like even in our chat, like again, I appreciate you guys sharing all this, and this component is like, so Serene's even saying like, without going into too much detail, I'm still dealing with other types of abuse and them not believing you. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, and thanks to Gina too. And again, here's important. I just want to throw this out there, guys. Like, if you are going through something right now, you're not alone, and there's resources as well. Like I'm actually going to pull up a couple of resources for you guys. I'm going to share them in the chat, because I don't want you guys to feel like this is great to hear about it, but if you're in a situation right now and you don't know what to do, I want to share resources, because that's another dynamic. And I don't know this personally, and I haven't personally seen this from direct experience, but like I just know indirectly in other dynamics of like, let's say you're a woman, right? And you rely on your partner for the income, for your livelihood, and you feel like you're on an island. You feel like maybe you like left your family, or you pushed away your family to be with this person, and they're abusive, or they're potentially abusive, or something's going on there, and you don't know how to get out, and it can feel so lonely. Because like, I don't have any money, I have a kid, how am I going to, like, get out ASAP? Like easier said than done. I understand that, but I just want to share some resources here. So anyways, G, I'm going to kick it to you while I like pull up a couple things and just share some.
We actually have Pineapple said, let me use the toilet paper roll. Some people want it put on a certain way. Yeah, I think I understand what you're trying to say with that. Like, people have their certain ways about it when it comes to new generation. Also, she said that before, and I'll touch base to what Lady M says in a second too. I'll read that. I'm just going through the chat again. True, but so much pressure on women and girls to dress, look, and act a certain way to be seen as attractive. Now, with that is true. Everyone wants to dress. Now, when they dress a certain way to be attractive, sexy, or anything like that, and then now they're shamed for it, or the dress is too low cut, back to that story, or they're not respected for that. It's an endless cycle that is not fair to that point. We have to teach our girls and young women that, like, you are able to wear what you want, do what you want, and uphold a level of respect for yourself while you're doing it. If you're going to wear this, make sure you know what looks you might get, but don't back down from it. Stand up strong and know that you're allowed to wear whatever you want at the end of the day. I'm constantly dealing with the trauma I went through and try and work so hard every day to not do the same with my own children. Our parents did the best they could with how they were raised, it's hard to break a cycle. 100%. I think talking about it, looking it up. I know it's going to sound really stupid, guys. Mike is giving resources as well. I'll highlight it right now. Mr. Chaz.
Yeah, Mr.
He
Chaz.
has an amazing, amazing podcast about breaking styles, communication. He's a child teacher, and he actually does coaching for parents. So, how to break that cycle, how to communicate with your kid, how to understand their feelings, true empathy.
And this isn't like a sponsored plug, by the way. Fun fact. This is just
not
like
sponsored. But I actually found him on TikTok, and that's where I was going with this. Is that TikTok has a lot of professionals in certain fields that give you quick snippets to help you learn little different tricks and tips. Mr. Chaz started, if I'm not mistaken, started on TikTok, and then that's how I found him in all the other platforms. He is amazing for helping you learn to break a cycle and giving you examples. I absolutely love him. Shout out to Mr. Chaz. I'd love to find out how we can get in touch with Mr. Chaz one day. I want to say in a relationship, it shouldn't matter why the toilet paper roll is what matters. It's not change. Is not gonna change. Is that what you're trying to say? Yeah, it shouldn't matter. Like little things like that shouldn't matter. I agree with you. If that's what you're trying to say, I want to make sure I'm understanding you right. Pineapples. Guys, again, thank you so much for being here with us. I think we've had so much of a great episode so far. We're about an hour and 15 minutes in. Guys, if you can, click that follow button if you're tuning in for the first time. Me and Mike are deciding whether we should do this weekly, bi-weekly, once a month. We want to hear your feedback. What are you guys' thoughts on this so far?
Tell us.
But saying how your daughter might dress and how men are going to look at her, that's not her problem. It's the men who need to learn how to deal with themselves. 100%. And that's what I said earlier is that let's start teaching our boys and children overall. Uncle Mark said weekly. Uncle Mark, you're still here. Shout out to you, Uncle Mark.
Dad holding it down.
Yes.
Ashley even went to bed, but Dad's holding it down.
Yeah.
And then Serene said, "Great podcast, Mike and Gina. We appreciate that." And also, like even just you're saying, like some really like deep and powerful stuff, like all the different abuses in a lifetime shapes and affects you, leaves a mark, a scar. And yeah, 100%. And it's up to us to break that cycle, especially with our children. That's why I think beyond being a parent, how like rewarding it is on a like individual level, like on a single, but like what it does to society. That's like the biggest task we'll have as a, in my opinion, as a human being, is like being a parent, if you're able to be a parent, and if not, like adopt or like have that role and shape how society grows and develops.
We got some deep stuff going on over here. We got Lady M. Thanks for this. Needed a good cry cleanse right now.
Ooh,
yes,
yeah.
Lady M, let it out. I was crying. I was just about to. Totally enjoyed hearing you guys. Thank you, Uncle Mark. Sorry if anything came off offensive, Uncle Mark. We actually have Mike's dad in the chat right now.
Dude,
guys, let's bring it back to everything we're saying. He is sitting here and listening to us. That is huge. And shout out to Uncle Mark for that.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm gonna go back to you. But thank you for being open to listening. I feel like some parents would have turned it off and be like, I did the best I can, click. So I really like, you know what I mean? I feel like that's my dad.
Well, I don't know about Uncle T, because
I totally see my dad being like, this is BS.
And I think it's like, this goes back to, again, there's like traumas and things in life. And like, that's exactly it. It's still a victim mindset potentially of like, well, I did the best that I could. To me, that's such a representation of like, dude, don't be the victim in this. It's about taking ownership. That's extreme ownership and like the biggest example. But like, go back to the checks. I feel like there's things popping off over here.
Yeah, I have pineapple right now. I love you guys. As a parent, I feel I could communicate with you guys and relate. That is so great. You don't know how amazing I feel that you guys can relate to us. And that's the whole point of this. I want us to be an open discussion with you guys. I've been wanting to do this for so long. I have 6 kids and they all have different characters. 6 kids. I can't imagine.
Cheers to you.
Yeah, cheers. Like, I could barely handle one. You are a machine and amazing for having 6 kids. I think, Lady M, you have a few kids as well out there. We got some big-time moms out there, whether you have 1 or 10 kids. It is a hard job. So I get very overwhelmed with 1 kid. And I keep telling Josh, would you consider another? He's like, I'm almost 40 this year. I'm pretty good. Yeah, I think school plays a big – I think – you know how much anxiety I get over thinking about Logan going to school?
Dude, I totally get that. I've been there, but you know what's interesting now? So here's what's interesting, and like maybe the other parents, you guys can speak to this. It's different everywhere. Is like I was so nervous about a kid being mean to her or something happening, and like there was actually like one day when I won't get into the story right now because I don't want to get flagged by Amazon. Of like Lena handling it like a champ, and even if not, I'm not justifying like violence or that kind of behavior, but go, Lena, I empower you, girl. And the other side of like now, like she didn't go to school last week because it was a snowstorm on Sunday into Monday. There was just icy stuff. She was like, I miss school. Like I want to go back to school. Like she wants to be there, and you can see the growth in her. And even now, like Ashley, like I'm not going to throw Ashley under the bus, but like she felt a stressful moment because someone in Lena's school got COVID in her class. So now we're staying home and like quarantining because like we tested negative, but like we don't have any symptoms or anything, but we're just being safe. And like Ashley, you can see that it was really eating at her. Like she felt like, am I doing the right thing? Like sending my kid to school right now? Like, but it's so, and I don't want to get into like a COVID thing, but like I totally understand that stress. But it's like, think of all the opportunities and positives that can come from it, just because there's a lot of negatives too, right? Like I've had a lot of negative experiences in school, but like there's so much more positive I think to be had, or maybe not. And everyone's situation is different. Maybe it's best to homeschool your kid. I don't know, not you personally, Gina, but like anyone out there listening to that can be a dynamic.
There's a million and one things that go into it. I've even considered, like, in the back of my head, I don't even think I even talked to Josh about it. I'm like, what if we homeschooled? Like that.
Yeah.
That's just me now going back into the cycle of my mom. My mom was, and I noticed, like now looking back, was driven by anxiety. 100%. 110% was driven. And I can tell she has, and I still know she has. She's very open about having anxiety.
Yeah.
So that leash or that tight rein on me was 100% their anxiety. But to me, I feel like sheltering them too much is gonna only hurt them in the long run, which don't get me wrong, I think I turned out pretty okay from it, but it was a lot of learning. And I think if I didn't meet Josh, I would have turned out 100% different and ended up in a different type of relationship that would have been super, super shitty for me. Excuse my language. Was super, super bad for me. I was in a lot of toxic relationships before I met Josh, my husband. I was in a lot of abusive relationships before I met Josh, and I thought that was okay. And I ran back to those relationships because I didn't know what was out there and what I should deserve and what I and your parents could tell you till you're blue in the face, but you live by example. And I'm not saying my parents were abusive. They weren't abusive in any way, but there were things that were back and forth, and you could see in other relationships that were swept under the rug or were made okay that shouldn't have been made okay. And that's just my point of view on it. Coach Mike, I really appreciate that you're trying to break the cycles of these stereotypes, especially when they can be so deeply embedded from your childhood models. 100%.
And same to you though, G.
Yeah, and you know what it comes down to? The internet. And I know everyone poops on the internet, but I probably wouldn't even know about half of these parenting skills or never even heard of breaking the cycle until I saw Mr. Chaz and all these things on the internet and did a little bit of my own research. As much as people ish on the internet, it is resourceful.
It can be that's the thing nowadays. I don't feel bad for people that complain, even from a financial situation. And this is like a different conversation altogether. But there's so many. If you have a phone and you have internet, which not everyone does, so I gather that if you have a smartphone, you have internet, you have a computer and you have internet, or you have access to a library, you can have access to an internet or to the internet and have access to a smart device. Like there's so much you can do. It's hard though because it can be confusing. There's a lot of misinformation on the internet as well. So there's like this balance, but there's so much to be gained, I think, as well. And that's where I think it's a responsibility for all of us to be able to lose the stigma, to have conversations, to throw things out there, and to like, hey, I don't honestly agree with everything everyone says, or even honestly, I don't agree with everything my wife thinks. And that's okay. And she doesn't agree with everything I think. What we do is we communicate about it. And then when we have our children, or when our children are involved, or our family are involved, or any dynamic in our lives, we discuss it in a manner that allows us to make the best decision for us and what we want to create for our lives. And again, I'm not saying like I have it figured out, like our lives aren't perfect, but I will say this, I'm super grateful for my life and where things are at. So here's the last thing I kind of want to say with breaking the cycle, or one thing I want to throw out there is, so I would say I've definitely had like traumas and different types of dynamics in my life. And then I think about some of the grit that I have, some of my best qualities I would attribute to my childhood and to my development, whether it's from the abuse dynamic or the trauma dynamic or just witnessing things in a certain way that like shouldn't have to. And I think, well, that makes me like tough and resilient and all these things that I want my kids to be too. So I wonder, it's like, I'm not justifying saying there should ever be abuse and by any means, but I'm saying, where do we, like, sometimes I want to create conflict in Lena's life. Like, I don't know, like when they were outside, I would obviously never do this, but it's just a weird example. They were in the snow in their pajamas. Like, what if I closed the door and they had to figure it out? Like, they had to just open the door. But like, you know, I don't want to make them feel abandoned, so I would never do that. But like, what if we like, I don't want to artificially create things, but sometimes I'm like, well, what what am I doing them a disservice by babying them, or like making it too easy, or I don't know any of that dynamic.
No, I think that's a good point too, and I think about that all the time too. I think that is just talking to them about it, and they're gonna eventually hit situations no matter what you do. That whether it's in school, as they get older, they're out in college, they're gonna experience certain things. They're gonna experience it in high school or even out in the field with their first job. They're
Yeah.
gonna have to learn it eventually themselves. But the best we can do is just tell them about it. Tell them and let them know that it's out there, that this can happen, how to maneuver, give them advice. But a lot of them are gonna be like, "Oh, that's not real. That's not true. That's not true, Dad. You don't know. You're not with the times." Until they live it, they're not gonna learn it. But
Right.
and I also thought to Josh too. I'm like, I kind of want my kid to grow up in the city. I want them to have that backbone city.
Yeah.
The tight, toughness of the
That
street.
hustle.
Yeah, that NYC, there is a difference between growing up in Brooklyn and growing up in Long Island. I ventured off Long Island at a young age. I would say a young age, like a teenager, and started going to the city, Brooklyn, working in nightclubs out in the city. I think I learned more there
Dude.
than I ever did in high school. And that's just real talk. I don't like a lot of things they teach in the schools nowadays, or how even from history and so on and so forth. It's so outdated. But I think you learn more from real life experience. And then I kind of wish my parents talked to me about a lot more than they did. I think I had this Disney fairy tale princess life that I thought I was going to have. The Little Mermaid was my example. You had, not that I'm saying I wouldn't show my daughter this, but you know what I mean, Mike? Like Little Mermaid.
No, I understand. Like just the
Cinderella.
princess, that ideal
I'm gonna
life.
find Prince Charming. We're gonna fall in love, and it's gonna be magical. My first time's gonna be magical. All these boys are so sweet; they don't take advantage of you. I'm gonna find my Prince Charming, which eventually I did, but I had to go through like a million toads. Not a million. That sounds like a lot. That sounds like a lot of guys. But I went through a lot of toads before I found my Prince Charming, and they don't tell you about the toads. You know what I mean? I didn't know about toads until I lived it.
So that's what I'm going back to my point before. Is
Yes,
like where I think. Exactly. So it's important to remove the toads by raising our boys and our men and our young men in a behavior that we would be proud of.
That too.
But preparing them like, hey, guess what, Lena and Tessa, there's scumbags out in the world. Like, you want to hear stories about, like, I'm a good person. Like, this is eventually when they're old enough, I'm gonna be like, I'm not gonna tell them like 100% stories, but I'm gonna be like, you think I'm a good person, right? Like, you love Daddy, you think Daddy's a great guy, which I am. I'd like to think so. Otherwise, Mommy wouldn't be married to me and all that fun stuff. But here's a story about what Daddy did when he was younger. Like, I left a girl at prom, and I'm a good person. Like, I think I'm a good person. I don't really know. And there's a whole backstory to that. But like, I left a girl at prom. Like, like I was supposed to just go to be like, honestly, eye candy, apparently, according to her, which I don't know. If I'm using me as eye candy, that might be a bad move. But I'm supposed to just be there for the pictures and then like go and hang out. And I just bailed at a certain point. That's not a cool thing. So there's like, even good people sometimes are going to make decisions they're not always proud of. So anyways, I'm just going on a whole rant here. But there was a question even in my chat, like, what are we talking about? So again, going back to this is a podcast, a little bit long stream. We have products in the carousel, but we're not exclusively focusing on them. Talking about breaking the cycle from our parents to us and even for our kids and looking at all the different dynamics that are at play there.
Yeah, there's a million and one different things you could do to break the cycle. I think the best one too is lead by example. Treat others how you want to be treated, and same with your kids, even if they're toddlers. Don't tell your kid, again, we're not telling you what to do whatever you want, but because I said so. Go deeper than that. Hey, I don't think you should do this. You're gonna get hurt. This is why you shouldn't do it. I am gonna set this boundary of you can't do this right now, and I'll explain why. Give them a why. They deserve a reason why they can't do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And also I think later on as a teenager, I would like to, again, every kid is different. My kid is a POS, that I would hope that I raise Logan not to be a spoiled POS, but if she turns around and is like, okay, you want to go out tonight? You want to go out to a party? I wasn't allowed at high school parties, right? My curfew was 8:00 until like I was a senior in high school. And I had
never happened. How'd that go?
That went miserably. I snuck out. I did this. I rebelled. My parents drug tested me to make sure I wasn't doing drugs, which made me try to maneuver ways of how I could
pass a drug test. What can we take?
Yeah, what can we take to pass a drug test? And then I did that, and I ended up in the hospital. So let's have conversations about, all right, you want to go to a high school party, Logan? Who are you going with? Who's the designated driver? how long you're going for. You answer every single text message that I have. I'm not sleeping until you come home.
And if they drink, if your designated driver drinks, you can call us and we'll come get you. Like my dad did at prom. Or was like kind of a different situation too, but still. Anyways.
I try a lot of action and reaction with my boys so they understand consequences. Yes, I 100% agree with that. My daughter throws something on the floor, she has to go and pick it up and know that I'm not going to clean up after her. That's the consequence of your actions. You make a mess, you clean it. That's it. If you are doing something I've told stop and this will happen and they keep doing it, I led to see what happened so they could see the consequences. I 100% agree with that, Lady M. If you keep slamming the door and I say stop or you smash your fingers and you don't listen, then look what happened. You smash your fingers. That's exactly what we went back to what Mike was saying. Like, tells him, all right, you're going to stand on the chair. You're going to end up getting hurt. That's your consequence. You try to avoid the hurt part.
Yeah, there's a difference between doing that and like then like kicking out the chair to prove that you fall and you'll get hurt. Because like, I won't go into details, but let's say someone in my family, God, I don't know how, anyway, it's not that big of a deal because no one really got hurt, but like, you know Steven. So Steven, me and my brother. Yeah. Like I'm just like, so the difference between me and my brother is like also a genius. Like he's a very, very smart, dedicated, hardworking person when he puts his mind to the thing he wants to do. However, here's the thing. He needs to have life experience. Like meaning he needs to do it and feel, at least when we were kids, he was also considered the daredevil out of the two of us. I was more cautious, more reserved. I would listen supposedly. You know, I'm sure I didn't always listen. So my mom was like, hey, Steve, that stove's hot. Don't touch that. And Steve's like, nah, dude, watch this. All right, I mean, it's not what he said, and it's not exactly what happened, but more or less, my mom's like, okay, cool. Like, and she moves his hand closer to the stove to not literally burn him, but to like make him feel the effects of what a hot stove is like to scare the S out of him. And that's where it becomes like, I don't do that. Like, I don't kick the chair out so Lena falls. I just tell her, hey, you could fall. What choice do you want to make? And not help accelerate that situation.
There's someone on TikTok. I got to find the name. I forgot it. She's a mom of 2 kids, and it's called the Montessori teaching. You ever heard of it?
School. Yeah, we're sending Lena to a Montessori school.
Okay, well, there's
one. No, Montessori, bro.
Yeah, no,
I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you.
It's teaching kids to be very independent at a young age. So, like making a coat rack that's their height, so they learn to when they come in the door, put their hook on their own rack. There's actually a woman who set up a little mini kitchen for their kid, and then actually put a real burner in it.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
He has the plug to it, so they can only use it when she's there.
When she's around.
Yes, but
good move.
The kid was 3 years old, making his own eggs on it, right? But she's standing there watching him. She taught him, okay, very hot, and he did it like a champ. He knew it was hot. He knew what to grab, how to stir it, everything, and he made his own eggs. And they learn how to do it. She teaches the consequences. She teaches how to do it.
Lena makes French toast with me on Sundays. Well, you might even actually see it on our meal prep.
I think it's more teaching them to a realistic aspect instead of saying like, oh, that's hot. I'm not going to let you need the stove until you're 10 years old. They're going to end up being curious.
Yeah.
So it's more of a hands-on, independent approach. She even has a mini fridge where she puts all the snacks. They can go and make their own snacks. She keeps safe butter knives for the kids, and they spread their own cream cheese on their bread.
Dude, we let Lena go food shopping. Like, we bring Lena food. I'll bring Lena food shopping. She gets her own little cart. She can pick out what she wants. This is what she picks out. She picks out fruits and chocolate. That's what she picks out.
Wait, Pineapple said my mom worked at a Montessori school. They also don't teach alphabet. Really?
You don't need no alphabet. Actually, I didn't know that. But honestly, Chuck's kids, they go to a Montessori school, and they crush it.
I've never heard of that before. So I don't know if there is a Montessori school out in Long Island or New York. Are there?
Dude, 100%. That's where Chuck's kids go. It's expensive though. I will tell you, it's expensive. Or it's not public school, so that's the dynamic. It's you're gonna pay for it.
No, they do teach A, B, C, D. So they do teach the alphabet. Right? So that's what you're saying, Pineapple? I want to make sure I'm understanding you. My boys love helping in the kitchen. I want my boys to be able to cook them. They can help their spouse instead of expecting them to do it. Yes, and I'm big on cleaning products too for kids, boys or girls.
Oh yeah.
I don't think there's gender roles here. I think you should have a kitchen for your boy, a cleaning set. I have a little mini vacuum for Logan and teach him, like when we spill something, she actually goes now and I say, you got to pick that up. You made a mess. You got to clean it. And now she'll take a wipe and she'll clean it. She spills the best of her abilities, obviously, as a kid.
Yeah, like same. And I think that's important too. Like I don't have something like, oh, Lena, you can't play with this, or my nephew. So that's the other thing I will say. I have a nephew who's my godson. Shout out to Maxwell. Max. He's the man.
Oh, okay.
So
So they
I'm
teach
even
it in sections, smog rather than A, B, C, D, then E, F, G. Oh,
break it
okay.
up so it's a little bit more digestible, I guess, or like you get a different connection. I don't really know 100%, but my point being, even with Max, like if he wants to play with like something that's considered Linus, I'm like, whatever, dude. And if Linus playing with his toy, whatever, dude. Like go. What I will do is like I bring them all into the gym. They don't have to work out, but I'm like, you guys can hang out with me in here. You can hit pads if you want. You can do pull-ups, or you can go back out in the living room. And guess what? They decide that they want to punch and do boxing and work out. And so giving them, it goes back to even what Mr. Chaz said in a video before that you were playing before we went live, is giving them all good choices. Just give them a list of good choices. Let them pick those, but it's all good choices.
Have you heard of gentle parenting? Have any of you guys out there heard of gentle parenting? And what Pineapple said, okay, that's different. I've never heard of that style of teaching, but I just know the Montessori as far as toddlers at a young age. The other stuff and like hands-on teaching, like putting the balls in the cup and more independent play and stuff like that. But tell me more. But gentle parenting. So the whole thing, that's what you're doing with the whole options. Like, hey, I understand you're frustrated. I know you want, for example, Logan wants cheese in the refrigerator, but hey, we can go with markers, or we can go play in the kitchen if you want, and we can have a snack later. Which one do you want to do? That's gentle parenting, and that's another big form. And not getting so mad, or like I said, not because I told you so. You can't have a snack because I say so.
Or check this out. Here's another, just to piggyback on that, is with gentle parenting too, is like, I was drinking Diet Coke before. Like, I don't always drink Diet Coke, but every once in a while, you know what? I was like, I want some Diet Coke. So Ashley was at the store. She's like, hey, you want me to get you anything? I'm like, can you get some Diet Coke? I just want to have some. And like, Lena sees me drinking and she goes, Dad, can I have some? And normally we don't drink soda, so like she doesn't have it. But I'm going to be a hypocrite if I have some and I say, you can't have any, and I'm nasty. I'm like, I explained to her, I'm like, Lena, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. If you drink this, it's going to hurt your tummy. It's not going to feel good. And then you're just going to have a bunch of energy. It's going to be hard to sleep later. And she's like, okay, I want it. And she's a 3-year-old, so I'm not saying you should empower your 3-year-old to make all nutritional decisions or things like that. Yeah, but again, letting her make that choice, and then looking at myself in the mirror and be like, hey, Mike, stop having soda in the house and doing this to your child. So I'm responsible. Yes. It's not, she is responsible for choice, but I'm responsible for the environment I put her in. It's my fault, and it's on me that she had that Diet Coke, not as much on her. She was just watching me and doing what I was doing.
Again, I think that's the whole thing too, back to like leading by example. If you're making healthy food choices, and again, I even read that you're not supposed to label food as healthy or bad. It's supposed to be everyday choices and once in a while foods.
Like treats. Yeah, there's like, and that's what me and Chuck talked about on our podcast, is we like, hey, this is a treat. This is like a once in a while thing. And then also I take it as an opportunity to explain to her, I'm like, hey, Lena, you know why we can't eat just chocolate? Because you're not going to feel good. It's going to hurt your tum-tum. And your body doesn't get what it needs. So I try to tie it into like what she likes. She's like, you like dance, right? So you want to feel good for dance. If you eat just chocolate, you're not going to feel good for dance. Like it's not going to, you know what I mean?
I think that's a great way to explain it. And even back to when we're talking about gentle parenting and giving them and explaining to them, it's making them understand and feel like they have a voice. But when I do this with Logan, my mom makes fun of me. She's like, oh, you and your Dr. Spark methods. I'm like, first off, Dr. Spark is actually the complete opposite of gentle parenting. It's your generation. So the fact that you've been referring this to as Dr. Spark parenting means you don't understand it at all. But when I get down on Logan's level, like, well, I was at my mom's house, right? And you know where the cable box is by the big TV?
Yeah.
So the cable box, guys, is Logan's height. So she can press the buttons. So she was running over there, and Uncle Mark, your dad was watching the football game. So she kept going over, and
she's like, nah, Uncle Mark.
Sorry. I could tell everyone's getting frustrated. But they were patient with her because she's a kid. I would get down on her level. I got down on my knees and I looked at her and said, excuse me, you know, I asked you nicely to please not play with that. But what you can do is have a ball right here, or we can go play somewhere else. Can you not touch that, please? And my mom's like laughing at me and making fun of me, like, oh, you know, Dr. Spark method, because from afar, my mom's like, no, Logan, I told you no. Get away from it. Didn't I tell you no already? Like, that's not going to work.
So here's the question I always like to ask for coaching when I work with clients, or even you mentioned it before. Here's the fundamental question I think you can ask in any scenario, and it's very revealing. How'd that work out? Or how is that working out for you? Meaning, hey, I yell at my kids when they do something that don't work, or that they're doing something I don't want it to do, and it's not working for me. So if it's not working, why would you keep doing it?
Yeah.
You know, like, how did that work out? For example, how and again, there's not shade at Antorine or anybody, but it's like, even from a health client, like even for myself, right? Yeah. I know that if I stay up till 2 a.m. eating and having like edibles and stuff like that, or whatever I'm going to be doing, it's not going to be conducive to waking up and having my routine for the next day. So if I repeatedly do that, how's that working out for me? That's on me at the end of the day. That's the behavior pattern I can change, or some. I'm just digging into that
no, that's right, because I kept telling him, like, how's that working for you? And again, don't get me wrong, after I did it too, she still went back. She was curious. But when she saw me come over to her and get down, she knew she was doing something she wasn't supposed to. She looked at me and laughed and then ran away. I think she was just looking for attention at that point. And I think another thing I watched a video on, what's the difference between attention seeking and you want to look at why they're doing something. So why is she touching the buttons, looking at me and laughing? She wants my attention. So maybe if I give her attention, she's not going to play with the cable box anymore. So, and that was another thing with the Montessori TikTok I followed. So the kid was hitting like the brother or something, or was, because there's two kids, and he was hitting acting out. And she's like, hey, you can't hit your brother, but do you want to hit something? I'll give you a ball and a bat. We'll go in the backyard. Is that your urge right now? What is their urge? Why are they doing things? Toddlers and young kids don't have a way of expressing their needs. So you got to
filters
and what do they want to do? Is Logan throwing things and like hitting her hands? Okay, does she want to throw something? Here's a bowl, honey. You could throw this instead. This is safe to throw. Don't throw your water cup at mommy's face. Please don't. So it's just redirecting their attention and figuring out their needs and their wants in a safe way and communicating that with them and letting them know you're trying to help and they're heard. To me, that's the bottom line, is being heard, understanding, and let's solve it. Boom.
So to recap, what I'm hearing is at the end of the day, we all want to feel validated.
Yes.
That's right. And then again, I got to give another shout out to Johnny Buck. You guys got to go check him out. Honestly, if you guys are liking what we're talking about, I'm going to be very transparent with you. You're not going to like everything he has to say, but I think what's important and what I love about Johnny is that he's willing to share his perspective and he's willing to hear out the other side. And he'll use data and information and provide a platform. So anyways, his shows, I Hate Johnny Buck. I would go check that out. And Johnny said, we were talking about this because we talk about business too and all these other things. And it's like there's two usually main drivers that are driving behavior. It's either fear or love. Or I'm actually saying love, but it's like fear or a desire for something, right? Like a love of something, of the ambition of something. So it's either you're doing it out of fear because you don't want something bad to happen, or you're doing it out of a drive and a positive manner. It's like negative or positive, more or less. It's not, I'm oversimplifying it, but.
No, yeah, 100%.
Hold on, Jay. I'm just going to share something. So Coralie, I just want to like send you some positive vibes right now. Coralie's not feeling so hot. She's pregnant and has COVID-19 right now. So I just want to like virtual hug. I imagine that's scary and just so many things are going on. So like just sending good vibes your way. Hoping everything's okay. Yeah. Like, and I don't know. Nothing I can obviously do.
We're here for you. Also in the chat right here too, we had Pineapple and Lady M this was a perfect example of what I was saying. Lady Pineapple said, I don't know if it's wrong and I'm still learning as a parent, but I'm getting on them right away and don't wait when teaching them right from wrong. And I show them and make them do it right after. Yes, that's exactly like Logan spilled something right away. I give her a wipey and say, help mommy clean this up. You made a mess. You have to learn to clean up after yourself. That type of thing.
Responsibility.
Exactly. Accountability. And then that's another teaching that empathy and ethics to your kids. That was good ethics. And you know what? I'll go to what you said for a second, Lady M. Mr. Chaz said something about teaching true empathy. Making a kid apologize for something they don't feel sorry for isn't teaching them empathy. That's not teaching them how to be a good person. You should actually show them what true empathy is. I don't know if I can explain it correctly, but he has a bunch of videos and it's in his podcast down below. But Lady M said, one of my sons had a thing with writing on the walls. All the methods to get him stopped didn't work. I had to rethink. He's an artist. I got him an art supply set, an easel, put it in his room, and tape it to the walls. Exactly. What's their need? They want to draw. They're obviously drawing on the walls. Let's try to redirect them somewhere else. Instead of yelling, no, 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 Mish says, redirect them to a better option. Exactly. When they give me a certain tone, I'm like, why are you mad? They tell me I'm not giving an attitude or I'm not mad. Then I give them examples of their tone, and they say things like, if you had a job, is that how you would talk to your boss? So that's perfect. Like explaining to them. They have an attitude like, hey, what's wrong? Talk to them. Try to get it out of them, express themselves. I like how you handle that, Pineapple. Good handle and skills there, guys. All of you. Shout out to all the moms out there. Lady M, Mish, Pineapple, all of you guys expressing and telling us how you parent. You guys are killing it. You're killing it as moms. You're killing it as parents. It is hard. It's not easy. There's no right or wrong way. We do our best. We're figuring it out. every single day. My husband has a son already. This is my first child. I'm learning the same way he raised his son in the beginning. It's a little different than we're raising Logan now. And we're just all out here learning, guys.
That's it. So that means I got to send some love for the pops out there, for the dads out there as well, and everybody in between, honestly.
Yes, 100%.
But yeah, y'all, I mean, this one's actually been a lot of fun. What do you guys think?
What do you guys think? I think we've been here almost 2 hours now, guys. Richard C. Oh, I know Richard K. Richard C. wrote, thank you for sharing your experiences. Very helpful. Good. I'm glad this could be helpful, and everyone sharing in the chat is helpful. Again, the products you see down below, guys, is things we're just using during the podcast. So from the cameras, my laptop, my microphones in the podcast, because we did have to put some type of products in the podcast. So just FYI, that's what I have in the podcast for my camera. Excuse me, some of my Amazon favorites. I had my unbreakable wine glasses. We had to throw a little product talk in there while we're here. I also, guys, put the link to Mr. Chaz's podcast down below in the carousel since it is through Amazon. And he is an amazing, gentle parenting, communication, kindergarten teacher. I think it's either preschool or kindergarten that he teaches. And I love him. I found him. He's Mr. Chaz on TikTok and Instagram. I love, 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 love his stuff. Like, he's someone I follow to a T, and I shared it to my husband, and he's like, wow, that makes sense. He breaks it down where the parent can understand, and not like the high-end psychological bibble babble behind it. He just breaks it down for a parent to understand. Yeah, Richard, it's not easy with COVID thing. My kids think they can just go out. Yeah, it's hard because they've been used to a certain way. I think
Tessa doesn't know any other way. Logan doesn't know any other way.
I was going to say they grew up in this, so to them it's going to be normal. Like, if this happens again, that we have to be precautious. We can't really go outside. And my two friends came over yesterday, John and Justin. You saw them on the lot. Mike was they're all making pasta yesterday. When they walked in the door, Logan literally looked at them like
who's these peeps?
Why are there people in my house? Like, she's not used to having people over all the time because. One, we're working in because of COVID, and even when we go to Target, she's looking around like, where the hell am I? Like, kind of situation. Lady M, let's see. I think this has been great. Oh, thank you, Mish. Love it. Has a cry. I am cleansed. I am refreshed. It feels so great when you feel you're not alone. Love y'all. Great. I'm so happy to hear. See, that makes it all worth it. I think the most people I had viewing at one point was 11 people. I don't know what the total viewage is, but I'm happy even if if I could help two people, we could just talk. What should we talk about next time, guys? What do you think we should do next time?
Yeah, give us some insight. I can run some ideas that we've wrote down by you. You guys can give us some insight. And then Corley saying, I say to my kids that if you try to be funny, that humor has consequences. Sometimes it's not funny. That's a good point too. There's like a whole other conversation that's happening in the chat. So Coralie is the one that's pregnant right now, and she was saying to her other kids, because like Serene was saying, like her dad gave her a punching bag and some gloves, and then I was like, so how'd that work out? Like, was that something helpful? She goes, yeah, like when these girls tried to jump me, I was able to take care of myself. and then she was saying, like, my mom always said be like sweet, and then they can't hate you, but in that situation they tried. And I don't know, apparently I wrote something that got flagged. I don't even know what I wrote, but sorry if I offended anyone. I don't know what I could have typed. I might have misspelled something. Point being though, sometimes you try and solve a solution with humor. You know what, actually, so I had this couple fighting outside the gym 2 years ago. When I say fighting, I mean arguing. They weren't like physically fighting. And I'm a coach at a fight gym. So to give you guys context in that, I've worked in like commercial fitness gyms, but this couple was arguing, and it was like the gym's closed. They're outside. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, all right, like no one knew, and I was with a bunch of younger coaches, so they didn't know how to like deal with this. I'm like, dude, bro, this is like child's play to me. Like I grew up in conflict. You don't even know. But anyways, so point being is I literally just walked up to the dude that I knew because he was fighting with his ex-girlfriend or his baby mama that was having baby mama drama. And I just literally gave him a high five, and I was like, hey, what's your name? And they said their name. I gave him a high five. I'm like, have a great night. And they just both dispersed and went home. Like literally just took a high five at a little engagement. Wasn't saying anything nasty. I didn't pick any sides. I was just like, hey, boom, boom, diffuse, and go. Yeah.
It was so crazy that me and you would be the type of people like, how can we diffuse? You know how many bar fights or anything, like you said, like girlfriend and boyfriend fights. I like jumped in them. I'm like, let's talk this out. We could talk. We could get through this.
That's risky too, because then you get clocked in the face real easy.
But my husband was the type is like, we need to leave and get out of here right now. Like I'm like, no, let's see what's happened. Like I could help. I could
Josh understands. He's been raised in the fire in the sense of like, dude, we could get shot. Like we should go, kind of a deal.
Yeah, no, my husband's been stabbed before.
Yeah, like, we gotta go.
So, yeah, the neighborhood he grew up in was not the best of neighborhoods, but he was running away from a kid, and the kid like went to go at him with a tree with a
ice pick.
No, not an ice pick. It was just like a branch, like a really sharp branch.
Oh, nice.
It went through his arm. They stabbed him, and it went through his arm.
Nice.
So that was fun. But anyway, that's irrelevant. But again, back to like, where do you raise your kids? Because I feel like Josh is very like tough skin and very tough, outlook, but he's also very introverted. I'm outroverted. He's introverted. That's a whole nother situation. We balance each other out.
Well, here's one. I got one that came up. I have a bunch of them in my notes, but it's like, one, clear your plate. Maybe that's something we talk about next week. Like parents saying to you, like, clear your plate as a kid growing up so you don't waste food, which I don't like wasting food, but I don't force feed them. We'll save that for another time too. So we can get into a whole nother thing. We got to bring this home. Also, I was going to throw this out there. We did talk about this. We could do a race if you're down. I'm down to do a giveaway. I'll sponsor it.
Do we want to thank you to you guys and do an LOF package giveaway? We could do a giveaway if you guys want. Let's do it if you want. Let's see what
I'm just saying, yeah.
Do I feel lucky I live in Hawaii? You should feel lucky you live in Hawaii. And Pineapple, my friend that I told you about, she does live in Honolulu. I was right about that. Nice. Sure, Mish goes, sure, guys. Yeah, let's do a little giveaway. Why not? Guys,
go for it.
No, I was just saying, I'm highlighting my electric candle lighter. This is the candle lighter that I had the other day, guys, that I told you I would eventually highlight in a carousel. That was pretty cool. No, we're going to do a giveaway. Let's see who wants to do it. All right, guys. So, guys, if you want to do the giveaway, write giveaway in the chat. I'll put the banner on right now. Let's see.
And then virtual hugs to Lady Lulu. Thanks for the follow. And then we got some interesting messages. So Corley was saying also, when my kids make a mess, I tell them to clean it up, and also have 2 toddlers, and they love helping mommy clean. And I do reward them to do what is right, though, because my teens get into fights a lot. Yeah, I get that. And that's like an interesting component for what I've seen from my psychology days of like training and like academic and like degree pursuits of positive reinforcement being the most effective and powerful tool for continuing a behavior, but not just consistent. It was sporadic positive reinforcement or like randomized positive reinforcement. So like every 5th time they do something, they get something to reinforce the behavior. And then Corley, I got you. And so yeah, again, guys, just drop. I'm going to pull up. I'll get a screen share going. Should we do a little screen share?
Go ahead.
Boom. Let me pull this bad boy up. Dude, I'm just really excited.
I use for streaming too, just so you know. Pineapple was talking about the Sony camera that I have in the carousel.
Yes, camera. Good call. I actually have the webcam motion tracker one, not the one that I'm using right now, but I wanted to highlight that. And then also I had some really fun stuff highlighting throughout. You guys might have noticed I had my TENS unit that I had on that I took off at one point, my leg compressors that can make a lot of noise, but hopefully it wasn't too loud.
Yeah, guys, we're doing a giveaway then. So here we go. Let's do it. Share your screen.
Lady.
So guys, do you think we should do this weekly?
What?
Should we do this weekly?
Yeah, I mean, I'm down to do it weekly. I'm down.
And we can include some of the Thrasio stuff in here too.
Yeah, dude, I'm down. All right, so RG, I see you in for the giveaway. Bada bing.
Yeah, I think one is just the camera, and the other one is the package with all the lenses and all the accessories and stuff like that. I think that's the difference between the two.
Okay.
Do something right, you gotta start, in the chat.
And then we got Mish F. Who else we got? Did I see Lady M? Pineapple, are you in? Is Pineapple in?
Pineapple.
I'm going to just put you in, Pineapple, because I feel like you are. Again, just type in giveaway or something in the chat to let us know you want in on ours. People need a healthy outlet. 100% Serene. And then Serene's in. I see you, Serene. Serene. Lori B's in. Lori, I got you. Pineapple's in. Got you. This is where, like, I like what David does. We have to add a timer. I kind of want to add a timer into, like, one of the things. Maybe I'll screen share another timer.
Can we do how long you have to enter?
Yeah, like doing like a 1-minute countdown almost for the screen share. I mean, for the timer. We don't have to do that right now, though.
Yeah.
In the future.
We can do that.
Wendy, I got you in. All right, y'all. So like I say, because I also am getting tired. It's getting to midnight, so like we'll start to close the race down. Race is closed. Closed. All right, so we're closing it down. Race is closed. So I'm going to just type in some info for you guys for the giveaway. So we're actually upping it. I should say it says $1,000 giveaway. We're rapidly upping it to $1,500 because we're adding in coaching. Shout out to Coach Chuck. Chuck is throwing in HIN services. So if you actually complete if you complete the nutrition course, when you're done with that, he's actually going to offer up his coaching to help you get a custom program on his end as well. So let me just type this message in. So this is boom. Evans, I got you. I closed out the race, but I got you. Don't you worry. Let me just check, see if I miss anything else.
I'm going to sponsor this giveaway from the Under Desk Cycle. And also, guys,
nice.
those unbreakable wine glasses down below are amazing. I wish I was able. I have. Oh, I do actually have one. I'll hold it up real quickly.
Do it. I'm going to have the OBS Tiny webcam or the OBS Bot Tiny webcam because that one has a lightning deal right now. So you can get nice little, see that 15% off. Also, fun fact, by the way, guys, your boy is a published author. I have my book in the carousel. It is Remarkable Health and Fitness, Volume 1. I honestly forget to talk about this all the time because it's not really that big of a project for me, but just a fun fact. So if you guys want to check that out and see an interview that I did that got published into a book and just notes me as the author for it, even though I didn't actually write anything. I just had an interview conversation and dug into some topics that I'm passionate about, and they just turned it into a book. Anyways, let's get rocking, y'all. It's go time. We're going to get our emoji on. Hold on. Let me just make sure you guys can see all the emojis. Boom, boom. And it's emoji time. Let's race, y'all. So again, you have the choice. You can either go with a $1 Amazon gift card, or you can go with the $1,500 fitness and nutrition package. The choice is yours when you win. And I have my email in both the chats. So you're just going to shoot an email to lifeofafighter@gmail.com. RG, I sent you your gift card, and anyone that was owed a gift card, I caught up, and I think I sent out all the gift cards, so you guys should all be good. And yeah, we're getting our emoji race on. Cheer these peeps on.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Get it, get it, get it. And again, I gotta say, like, I really love the community that we're building here and that you guys are a part of. Like, it's freaking awesome. Like, I can't express that enough.
Yes. Sorry, I got distracted. Here we go. 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 Oh.
Uh-oh. Evan's emoji is smoking too. He just said, I think that's a thermometer.
Yeah, that's definitely a thermometer. It's like these six. Oh, Wendy.
And Wendy. Congrats, Wendy. Serene, why are you all sad? What's going on? So hold on. Let's stop our screen share here. Bada bing, bada boom. Congrats, Wendy. Congrats, Wendy. So wait, on my chat, it's showing it's done, but on yours, it looks like it's a little bit delayed by like 30 seconds.
Okay.
All right, so Wendy's on mine anyway. So Wendy, let me know if you know the deal. You just gotta, I just realized I had my corner set up here so you can see even more. That's cool. Ho ho. Thanks, Coach. Got it. Just check my email. Beautiful. There's a lag. Yeah, there's a bit of a lag on Gina's compared to mine. But anywho, so Wendy, send an email to lifeofafighter@gmail.com. Say if you either want the nutrition package or if you want the $1 Amazon gift card. Either way, we'll get you set up. And that is pretty much it for us tonight, y'all. We'll be back tomorrow, though, right? Because we're going to be streaming.
Yeah, tomorrow night.
So, yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow, hopefully.
Yeah, and Saturday, guys, we're going to do a live workout again. So what did we decide on a time Saturday that works for you, Mike, so we can tell the people?
Wait, for Saturday, you said, right?
Saturday, yeah.
I could do either 10 or 11.
You want to shoot for 11? I feel like that's a safe time for everyone.
Yeah, I have it marked down as 11. I just have it as a repeat for 11 every week to play it safe, and we can always adjust.
All right, let's keep it at 11 then. We'll do Saturdays at 11 o'clock, live workout. Thank you, guys. Who is that on your wall, Coach? Is that a fighter or you? That is him painted on the wall.
Yeah, that's me. Fun fact, by the way, guys. Hold on. Let's. In case you guys don't know. Oh, Jesus. In case you don't know. Also, another humble brag of the day. Your boy's the light heavyweight Muay Thai champion, World Kickboxing Association. Hold on. You can't even see it up on there, but just a fun little plug.
He decided to paint, as he humbly brags, he decided to paint himself on his wall. And not only is there one painting of him, there is two of his faces on his garage.
There's two. I'm not a narcissist. Don't worry.
But anyhow, guys, again, yes, we'll be going live tomorrow night, probably around 10 p.m. after he's done with his Muay Thai training or whatever he does.
Oh, no, I'm not in the gym tomorrow. So I could hypothetically, I could do it earlier, but I'm down to keep it at like somewhere between 8 and 10.
So let's do like at least like 8:39.
Sounds good to me, dude.
All right, tomorrow 8:39, and then Saturday at 11 a.m. Guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us today, guys.
Bye, y'all. That was so much fun.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Bye.